Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott, and we are glad to be back tonight talking about a topic we've never discussed on this show, spontaneous human combustion. Author and researcher Larry Arnold is here, which is going to be a great show nonetheless. And Dirty Filth is here with another crazy cartoon. We're going to have a lot of fun watching him draw tonight as well. Let us say hello to everyone in our chat room tonight, including Race Fan in the gold medal position, B.A. Baracus with his first silver, Laura Lobbs with a bronze medal tonight, and from there we go to Robert Lamoth, Adam B., Forrest Louie is back. Forrest Louie will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Fast Hemi, Stephanie Kenny Blankenship, Ethanol, Psychic Medium Rebecca K., welcome to SOR Chat. Acryong has returned. Acryong will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Frankie B., how you doing? Little Timmy James, how you doing, bud? Good. He's in studio. Mel WD40 is here, lubing us up for tonight's show, so that way we don't spontaneously combust. Yeah, you always get good lube from Mel WD40. Thank you, Mel, for keeping us liquefied. Galactic J, good to see you. And in the studio, what's happening, my man? Moving on down, pissing me off, Evan Walters. Surprised you're here. All right, Eternity Eternal. And Jessica Davenport, thank you for coming on in. Operation Shutdown. Lee the Bee, nice to see you guys here. Walter Kochabinski, Millennium, my man. Thank you guys for coming on in as we continue on with roll call. There's Mark Eddy. If you wave to him, he'll always wave back. Scrolling on down, we say hello to Necessary Dialogue, Tracy Winters, Destiny Rocks, Bombshell Bomber, and Algaray over on Twitch. 1,500 pull-ups in 6.5 minutes. Yeah, he thought he was going to spontaneously combust after that. Surprised he didn't. Phineas over on X, thank you for joining us, bud. And as well on X, we have I'm Hardcore. Thank you for coming on in. Kathy Evans, thank you for joining us. Walter Sobchak, good to see you. Xanos, Sweet Donna C. And who's next on our list? Digger Dog. Always a pleasure to have you guys here. Scrolling on down, we have Canna Chef Chris. Thanks for coming on in. Glad that you're back with us. Wondering if Dave is wearing a hoodie with a back at the front or an unzipped hoodie. I'm wearing an unzipped hoodie right now. Unzipped. Fabster, how you doing? Wish I could say it was nice to see you, Fap, but, you know. Little Cam on YouTube. He ran 76 laps around the track in an hour and a half. Yeah, his legs are about to combust, that's for sure. Dave Tiger Williams, he'll drop the gloves for you. You know, he had no idea who Dave Tiger Williams was. Yeah, but he does now. Hillbilly Herb, thank you for joining us. Bob Thorson, Paul Demon, good to see you guys. It's always good to have you here. Let us get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate you tuning us in. We are going on to the topic that we've never discussed on this show before. Larry Arnold, author and researcher, will talk about spontaneous human combustion. Yeah, it's a real thing. We're going to get into it here in just a little bit. We are on the roll call side of our YouTube channel, so stick with us. We're going to be going here in probably about 45 seconds as we say hello next to, let's see here. Dave Williams says, I'm a lover, not a fighter. Yeah, that's always funny. Go get him, Tiger. Go get him. The super chat is open. Yep. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. As well, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Why? We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. You can get our stuff and actually wear it out in public and be proud of it to more places than a flea market, garage sale, the paint store, or wherever else you do your hardware needs. Scrolling on down, we have Search and Destroy, Kitty Cattywhack, Vanessa, nice to see you guys. Everybody, throw those horns up. Let's rock. Of Central British Columbia to you listening around the world. This, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I'm your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock the read the news wire, check out our site as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got an amazing show coming at you tonight. Author, researcher Larry Arnold is going to break down the mystery of spontaneous human combustion. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller will be here with another weird story. Follow that up, little Timmy James will bring us the UFO report. So let's get right at it, because this is a topic we've never done on this show. Always wanted to, never found the right person to it until our booking coordinator, Klaus, we call him Dirty Filth around here. He literally found us somebody who's an expert on this topic. After leaving Lafayette College and a brief career in electrical engineering, Larry Arnold founded ParaScience International in 1976 to pursue the exploration of fortean anomalies and consciousness. His controversial article published in August 1978 titled Meltdown at TMI-2 would 8 months later be termed uncannily accurate by the Philadelphia Inquirer in presaging the future of the nuclear power plant's impossible Class 9 meltdown near his home. An author of 4 pioneering books, The Parapsychological Impact of the Accident at 3 Mile Island, The Reiki Handbook, and ABLAZE, The Mysterious Fire of Spontaneous Human Combustion, translated into Japanese, he is regarded by many as the world's expert on spontaneous human combustion, and consequently, by others, as a mystery monger and world-class fool. I don't take him for that. Guy's too smart. And I'm excited to look at this, into this topic. It is absolutely crazy that people can just burst into flames. It sounds almost biblical. Larry Arnold, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time, my friend. Thank you for joining us. I love this topic.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Dave. We are delighted, pleased to discuss our research with you and your Canadian audience and anybody else who's listening. Before we get into this weirdness, we'd like to make a statement, if we can, to your Canadian audience. We've had the pleasure, we live in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, outside the city, which is geographically about 100 miles west of Philadelphia for orientation. We've motorcycled to Cape Breton Island, to Quebec, to Toronto, to Montreal. We have run the luge course outside Calgary. We floated the Squamish River and counted almost 600 eagles that afternoon. That's out in your area of the country. And all those trips, you Canadians have treated us with the most incredibly kind hospitality, for which we're very grateful. So on behalf of our fellow sane, rational Americans, we apologize to all of you for the insane, insipid, idiotic, and insulting comments of Mr. Trump. We are so, so sorry.
And we are sorry as Canadians because we always have to accept an apology with another apology. And we are really, really sorry on unleashing Justin Trudeau on the world. Okay, we really are. And, God used to be a fan of Canada. And we are definitely on the naughty list right now. And apparently Santa's given us all coal. Oh, not coal, because that's illegal. So anyways, off from the politics onto the weird stuff. You started developing this interest in this subject over 50 years ago.
That is true.
When you look at the subject now, the way the social media has taken it over, the way the internet and research has changed, the way technology now has all of this equipment and all of these gadgets out there that could find ghosts, track UFOs, look for cryptids like Bigfoot. How has this game changed in your eyes? And what do you like and not like about it?
That's a provocative question. Wow, we got to ponder that one a moment. When we were introduced to the subject in the early 60s, when we were in 8th grade, there was almost nothing available to the public about spontaneous human combustion, or as we prefer to call the classic cases now, sudden human cremation. When we left the engineering profession, we decided to go back to the Library of Congress, pull up some film to see if what we had read about in junior high school had any credibility or if it was based in fact. And what we discovered that particular case that we read about back in the early 60s of Mary Hardy Reeser was indeed based on real factual evidence, and it was quite bizarre. Since then, and we largely feel because of the research, the writings, the publications, the appearances, the interviews that we have done based on our 50 years of research, this subject has, in some sense, taken over a corner of the internet, and it's now still regarded probably as highly superstitious, not based in any credible fact. There are all kinds of conventional explanations thrown at us to explain away the mystery of spontaneous human combustion, sudden human cremation. All that having been said, the mystery still is out there. Mainstream official science, fire professionals largely refuse to this day to look at the evidence, whatever the source. We will never forget one experience we had in Philadelphia. We just come from meeting with a local fire marshal who described to us in incredible detail and gave to us an amazing set of 12 photographs of a remarkable incineration that impacted the lady who lived outside of Philadelphia in 1964. Clearly met all the conditions of what history calls sudden human cremation, or SHC. We then went to downtown Philadelphia to meet with a fire officer there to hopefully get some more information about other cases that occurred in his jurisdiction. He laughed at us, said there was nothing they could share with us about the cases, the names, the dates that we put on his desk because this doesn't happen. We asked him what he would do if he went out to one of the fire scenes. And we put some of the photographs that we had just received from the fire marshal in Upper Darby Township on his desk. And we said, if you were called to a fire scene and this is what you encountered, tell us what you would do. Help us understand these amazing fire scenes, these localized incinerations of human bodies. His response to us, we shall never forget, I'd go out, get drunk, and forget about it. At which point he had us pack up our materials in the attaché case and literally escorted us out of his office into the sidewalk. that kind of an attitude allows the disbelief, the debunking of SHC to continue to this day, no matter what the internet says about it.
When you started looking into the paranormal and supernatural, what led you down the path to spontaneous human combustion?
As we said, we read about it in a book called Stranger Than Science, about 1962, 63, when we were in 8th grade. That book had a chapter called Incredible Cremations, and it dealt specifically with one case in particular, that of Mary Hardy Reeser, who incinerated herself in an apartment in St. Petersburg, Florida, on the night of July 1, July 2, 1951. She left behind 1 foot, a few pieces of calcined vertebrae, and what was said by the investigators at the time to have been a shrunken skull, shrunken to about the size of a grapefruit or orange. No other significant heat or fire damage. For 1 month, the officials in St. Pete, the fire department, the police department, called in experts around the country, trying to understand how this woman could have burned herself so completely in her chair that also consumed a side table, but otherwise created almost no significant heat or fire damage in the apartment. After a month of being completely bumfuddled by this, suddenly someone decided, oh, she dropped a cigarette in her lap and immolated slowly over many hours in a fire that produced no noxious odor of burned flesh. That's typical of many of the cases that we have investigated that fit the definition of SHC. That got us intrigued. When we left college, left the engineering profession, we saw that lots of people were investigating UFOs. A good many people were trying to track down Bigfoot, but nobody seemed to be looking into this thing called spontaneous human combustion. So as we said, we spent a weekend down at the Library of Congress trying to find out whether the author of Stranger Than Science, Frank Edwards, had made up this material about Mrs. Reeser or whether it was factual. And what we discovered was in 1951, this was front page news in the St. Petersburg Times and the Tampa Tribune. This is what Mary Reeser looked like in her better days. That's the best photograph. Rather attractive lady, weighed about 175 pounds on the evening of July 1st, 1951. The following morning, she was burned so completely that 2 firemen from the St. Pete Police Department literally had to shovel up her ashes. We have spoken to one of these firefighters. He tells us that in his experience, she best fits the definition of spontaneous human combustion, and that's how he believes she perished. We spoke to the son of the other firefighter who shoveled up her ashes, and he told us that his dad, a man of few words, chose one again and again to describe that fire scene, and that word is bizarre. And what happened to Mary Reeser in 1951 is indeed bizarre. Was it a one-off case, however, that just had a set of really bizarre circumstances that could be explained conventionally? Did not seem so. The dropped cigarette just didn't seem to make sense to us. Then in 1975, we got tipped off to a case that sounded very much like Mrs. Reeser, and that was Dr. Bentley, who was a resident of our home state of Pennsylvania. And on December 5, 1966, Dr. Bentley immolated in a very astonishing fashion. He cremated in his bathroom, leaving behind 1/2 of one leg. At the end of the hole on the beams through which his body almost incinerated through was a head, burned so badly that some of the first responders told us they could not even identify it as a head. The rest of Dr. Bentley's 180-pound body had burned completely to powder through the hole in his bathroom floor, a hole about 2.5 by 4 feet in size, and was found by meter reader Don Gosnell the morning of December 5, 1966, to be a pile of ash on the earthen floor of Dr. Bentley's basement, a pile of ash about 5 inches in height, 14 or 15 inches in diameter. We were at that fire scene. There was no odor of noxious burned flesh at the fire scene. In fact, the first discoverer of that, Don Gosnell, who was also a volunteer fireman in Countersport, Pennsylvania, back in 1966, told us that when he entered Dr. Bentley's home to read the gas meter in the basement, that he noticed an odd sweet-like smell in the hallway. When he peered in to check on Dr. Bentley's well-being and discovered that lower leg on the floor, his first reaction was this was a mannequin leg, until he bent down and looked at it closer and realized, my God, it's not a mannequin, it's a human leg. And he ran out of the building down into his office at Penn Gas and yelled, probably the understatement of 1966, Dr. Bentley's burned up. And indeed he had. As we said, we were at that fire scene. The ceiling in Dr. Bentley's bathroom was very low. We could touch it with our upstretched hand. We stand 6 feet tall. The ceiling was about 7.5 feet up. Not a scorch mark, not a singe mark on the ceiling, directly above the point where his body incinerated to powder. Paint in the bathtub, literally inches above the hole in the floor through which he incinerated, was not even blistered. His aluminum walker, aluminum will melt at about 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit. It is intact. This is a fire scene that is so, as the Los Angeles arson department and the LA Fire Department told us, this is bizarre, it's awesome, it's astounding, and it is, to us at least, utterly fascinating. How does this happen? How can it be explained? Are there other cases like this? We now have 2 amazing cases of nearly total human incineration when there is no known explanation within mainstream fire science that we have ever encountered in our half century of researching this subject that they could explain to us. The mystery is here. The photographs are here. The testimony of the first responders that we have interviewed is here to attest that this is a rare phenomenon, blessedly, but it also is a very rare fortean mystery crying out for study and explanation.
What I want to know about this, before we go any further in depth here, explain to our listeners what exactly is spontaneous human combustion.
Excellent. Historically, spontaneous human combustion has been defined as a fire scene in which a human being is almost wholly incinerated to powder, perhaps leaving behind an extremity or 2, lower legs, upper arms, perhaps the upper shoulder, head area. The rest of the body is almost completely burnt to powder. That's the historical definition, and there's no known identifiable nearby external ignition source. We have broadened that definition because our research goes beyond that classic definition of SHC. Our definition for SHC is this: it is the blistering, smoking, or burning of a human being to an extraordinary extent in the absence of a known identifiable external ignition source. If there is no reasonable presence of a heater, an electrical hot pad, an electrical short, or a dropped cigarette or pipe, or a case of arson murder. And even in those cases, we don't find bodies burned as completely as was Mrs. Reeser and Dr. Bentley and hundreds of other individuals that we've been able to identify through the years of researching this phenomenon throughout history.
How often does this happen? Because I remember as a kid, you'd watch Unsolved Mysteries or something along those lines. There was always, a couple shows a season on spontaneous human combustion. And now we rarely hear of it ever happening. Why is that?
We'll give you a number of reasons for that. One, as we said, it's an extraordinarily rare phenomenon. If this happened to the thousands of people who die every year in smoking mishaps because they were carelessly handling a cigarette or fell asleep in a chair while smoking a pipe or something like that, we'd find thousands of bodies every year burned up like Dr. Bentley or Mrs. Reeser did. We don't find that happening. So we say first, it's a rare phenomenon. It used to appear somewhat in a cyclical nature. We found a spike in the number of cases in around 1870, 1871, another spike around 1904, 1905, then again in 1938. It seemed to have a 33-year periodicity. More recently than that, however, we have not found that to happen. So in our database, we have years like 1938 when we have many cases that fit the definition of SHC. More recently, we don't have cases at all. Having said that, we also know as a fact, there are cases that we know that have happened because we've been given very vague leads from fire professionals who have talked to us about hearing about a case here, another case there, but we just have not been able to get the specifics, the names, the exact dates, or the precise locations in order to attempt to document and verify those cases. So there are cases of this phenomenon, rare that it is, that are hidden to us and to mainstream science that we just have yet to hear about.
Do you think it's still happening?
Absolutely. The most recent case we stake our reputation and research on happened in Oklahoma in 2013. We have the photographs of that. We talked to the fire marshal, the firefighters who responded to the case, the sheriff in the county who led the investigation, who before he became sheriff had a 20-year career as, believe it or not, an arson investigator. He knew what to look for at a fatal fire scene, and this case in Oklahoma in 2013 was completely baffling to him. We have not had a case since 2013 that we know about that we've been able to investigate. Having said that, we will say this. This week past, we've had telephone calls from two women, one in San Diego, one in Seattle, both of whom have told us about their personal experiences of experiencing what we term partial spontaneous human combustion, in which their bodies became abnormally hot to them, and they feared that they were going to, and as one lady told us yesterday, I got so hot I thought I was going to spontaneously combust. We're still pursuing both of those cases. The other case has severe third-degree burns, she says, to the rear of her legs. While she slept, she said themselves were not burned. So there's a whole subset of this phenomena, people that have either observed this happening in the classic sense or have experienced and survived partial abnormal thermogenesis in the bodies, different type of spontaneous human combustion. This is a very complex and difficult subject to wrap one's brain around, and yet the evidence is here to support it.
With 2 minutes to go before we have to go to break, at the bottom of the hour, Larry Arnold is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Were you ever able to find any correlation as to why it happens to certain people?
We have certainly looked for that correlation. We've tried to find information if these people had a common medical malady, perhaps they shared a similar diet, they had the same personality, type A perhaps. That information, again, has been incredibly difficult to obtain because, as you might well expect, that kind of information is not cataloged by the first responders, by the firefighters at these scenes. They come in, they put out the blaze, they may mop up the scene, and they go back to the station house and wait for the next fire call to arrive. It takes someone like us, someone with an interest in odd things, with a broader awareness perhaps, to try to get that kind of information as to look for common factors. So far, we have not found one. And that just adds to the mystery and the difficulty of trying to explain how these fires manifest.
So it has nothing to do with age, sex, health condition, or anything as far as you know?
We're squeezing an answer to that real quickly before this bottom of the break. It used to be said that all victims of SHC were elderly, female, sedentary, alcoholic sots who were living alone either in France or in Germany. That is not true. While the elderly are more prone to this phenomenon occurring to them, and that's understandable given that as the body ages, biological processes tend to go into decline. We also have victims who are a few weeks of age. That's happening to them in a crib. By gender, males and females are almost equally represented. Our database is 50% female, 47% male, and 3% history does not tell us the gender.
Weird. So weird. I'm so excited about tonight's show. Larry Arnold is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. You could go on Amazon. You could get his book called The Mysterious Fires of ABLAZE, Spontaneous Human Combustion. It came out 30 years ago, but it's still relevant today and a good one to add to your library. Spontaneous Human Combustion Talk with us right here on Spaced Out Radio. We will return right after this. All right, we are clear. That's a power start. So much fun. Oh, God, I'm like right into this one tonight. Yeah. If I could smile without my lip hurting, it'd be great. I'll get him next time. Mm-hmm. So did I. Mm-hmm. Oh. Larry, how am I doing for you so far?
You're wonderful. We're happy. We're delighted. We're honored. Go for it. We're immensely pleased. Very good. How are we doing for you?
I'm so excited about this topic tonight. So excited. Like I said, I wish I could just smile a little bit more. Yesterday, my son is 11,
Okay.
and we had a little hockey game a game of floor hockey with these mini sticks and a foam puck.
Hmm.
And he was beating me 4-2 at the time. And all of a sudden he's like, "Come on, Dad, let's go." Well, I'm an old hockey guy. I mean, when you get challenged, you have to have a little round with the kid, teach him a lesson. Well, so here I was kind of, just wrestling around with him, and he came with a punch and he got me right in the chin, right in my teeth area here, and my lip went back and I bit my lip. And now I got a big, like, paranormal orb stuck to my face on the inside of my lip. And yeah, it's fun. It was worth it.
Good.
Yeah. Jennifer Beveridge, how are you tonight? Good to see you. I'm glad I don't chew tobacco because that would burn in there. Mark, how are you? My arm is killing me. Yeah. Be the Arrow, nice to see you. Yes, Jennifer Beveridge, we're all cold right now. Uh-huh. Oh, we've dropped to minus 25 Celsius. So I believe that's equals to minus 15 Fahrenheit. Oh, let's see. Convert Celsius to Fahrenheit. Minus 25. Oh, it's only minus 13 Fahrenheit. Yeah. Yeah. Human Carl's bragging that it was 74 degrees. That's shorts and t-shirt weather. Yeah, you don't even need socks at that point. Mm-mm. That's where you just literally slip on the Hey Dudes and go. "70 degrees for B.A. Baracus." I don't even know what that's like. No, don't even know what that's like.
Someone says your cold temperatures will prevent you from experiencing spawn-com.
Mm-hmm. Fast Hemi says it's 25 degrees. Is that Fahrenheit, Fast Hemi? I'd do 25 degrees right now. Mm-hmm. All right, we got about 30 seconds. Thank you to Jay for our lone super chat tonight. Hi, Deborah Rooney. How are you? Very much appreciate the love and support. What would be 25 degrees? Oh, that's -3. Oh, that's t-shirt weather. That's light hoodie weather right there. Yeah. This. Oh, here we go. Here we go, the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Spontaneous human combustion is the conversation with author Larry Arnold. My name is Dave Scott. We are so glad to have you here, tuning us on in for all things weird and strange. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go with Larry Arnold. He has a book on Amazon. It's been around for a while, but is still extremely relevant to his research today. The Mysterious Fires of ABLAZE, Spontaneous Human Combustion. We've never talked about this subject on the show before. I'm excited that we got it going. Larry, thank you for being here and keeping up that great excitement for us.
You're most welcome.
All right. Right before the break, I'd asked you if there was any type of oddities that kind of add together to know whether or not it is something of spontaneous human combustion. You know, because there are so few cases, I guess it's really hard to chase there. Do firefighters and emergency techs believe in this, or do they think this is just something that is an unnatural or a natural occurrence?
It can go either way. It's been extremely difficult for us to get cooperation from a lot of fire officials, a lot of fire departments. Even if we show up with a name, a news clip, a date, and perhaps even a location, and say this fire happened in your jurisdiction, we as a researcher are interested in learning more about this particular fire fatality. Can you help us? And if we describe the scene as localized but intense burning, surrounding combustible materials escape unsinged, no odor of burned flesh, they usually have their eyebrows go up and say, "Are you talking about spontaneous human combustion?" We say, "Well, yes, that's what history has called it." Well, that doesn't happen. Nothing here for you to investigate. We told you about the fire investigator in Center City, Philadelphia, who ushered us out of his office because he couldn't mentally nor professionally come to terms with what we were asking him about. Having said that, that is our usual experience. When we were down at the National Fire Academy in Emmitsburg, Maryland, the premier fire education location in our country, we had the occasion that day to meet with 3 of their senior fire instructors as we were wrapping up research for our book, ABLAZE. And we said, "You guys are the experts. We have photographs we'd like you to look at and explain to us, if you can, within current science understanding and methodology, how these fire scenes could have occurred." The first instructor said, I've kind of heard about this, but I'm not interested. And he walked away. The second instructor encountered that conversation as we tried to hand him the photographs. He said, "I don't want to see this." And he literally spun on his heels and ran away from us down the hall. We'll never forget that image. We encountered a third instructor and he said, "I've heard about this. I don't know anything about how to explain it. Come into my office, sit down, and tell me everything you know." That was 1 out of 3. We would like to see 3 out of 3 examples of that when we try to understand this phenomenon. This, unfortunately, in the fire service community is a topic that raises an incredible amount of xenophobia, a lot of fear. They believe that they know how fires occur. They believe they know how to put out fires. In most cases, that is quite true, and they are to be complimented and commended for it. Firefighting is a dangerous occupation, but on occasion, as our research has demonstrated, they will come across a fire scene that makes no logical sense to them, belies everything that their perhaps decades of fire training and on-scene fire experience tells them should be encountered, and yet is so radically different that, unfortunately, for many of them, they'd rather go back to the firehouse and forget about it than address the fire scenes with the kind of inquisitive questions and eagerness that we believe we have brought to the research into the subject.
Now, as you are preparing yourself to study this, did you have to take any courses or understanding in fire training, arson, or anything like that to understand the magnitude and the power of fire?
Thank you for that question. We didn't have to. No, we could have self-educated. We could have read a couple books. We could have, in later years, dug into the internet. But we did take professional education courses. We took fire science here at the local community college with the state police fire marshal, who was so impressed by our research that as a student, he asked us to address the rest of the class with the research that we had done by that time. We later were given the opportunity as a civilian non-firefighter, probably the unique opportunity at the time it happened, to be given admittance to an advanced arson training course at the Pennsylvania Fire Academy. Normally that is reserved only to professional firefighters because of the nature of the material that's presented. They don't want the public to know how you can start fires spontaneously as an arsonist, for example. We were given special permission to attend that course by Buzz Triebold, one of the premier fire instructors back in the late 70s, early 80s. Interestingly, during the end of that course, Mr. Triebold told the class, herself included, that he had just received a photograph that some people might call spontaneous human combustion. Well, imagine our eagerness upon hearing that. As he described the photograph depicting a lady in a chair who burned up with extraordinary ferocity, we thought, well, this must be the Reeser case that happened in 1951. We know about that. We started telling firefighters sitting beside us about the Reeser case. When the photograph that Mr. Triebold was passing around got to our hands, we realized, oh my God, this isn't Reeser. This is a case we know nothing about. So we're going to actually show you one of those photographs. It is this.
So for our audience, what are we seeing here?
What we are showing to your viewing audience is a photograph depicting a lady whose two lower legs are propped up in front of her sitting chair. Beyond her knees, there is not much visible of her body. There is minimal fire damage to a wooden stand to the right of the chair or to an end table to the left of her chair. We have spoken about that case to the fire chief involved in that fire scene, the assistant fire marshal involved in that fire, as well as the fire photographer who later became the fire marshal for Upper Darby Township. This happened in November of 1964. It fits all the criteria for classic spontaneous human combustion, an incredibly intense, fearsome fire that consumed much of the victim's body, but left behind two extremities, in this case her lower legs, largely intact. Her arms are burned to the bone, and yet one of the photographs shows that she had a cheap charm bracelet dangling from the ulna, from her wrist bone. She was a semi-invalid. She used a brass bell to summon assistance from the co-residents of her house. The brass bell is on her right thigh, intact. The brass did not melt. The wooden handle did not char. There was no heat or flame damage above the body, above the chair in which she immolated. There was no odor of burned flesh. We have that from the 3 senior fire officials at the scene. Also, we have in this particular case, the victim's name is Helen Conway. In our book, ABLAZE, we devote an entire chapter to her case. It is that fascinating and that well documented by us. One of the key factors in the Conway case is the time element. Our skeptics, the debunkers of SHC, claim that these are low heat, smoldering fires that last for many hours because of the wick effect that burns the body like an inside-out candle. In the Reeser case, we have the time element locked down. Having spoken to the fire photographer, the fire marshal, and the assistant fire marshal in the Conway case, everyone agrees that a maximum allowable time from the time that Mrs. Conway was known to be alive in the second floor of her home outside of Philadelphia in November of 1964 was 20 minutes. We can narrow that down even more because in sitting down with the fire photographer, who later became Fire Marshal Bob Meslin, we walked back the timeline from the time that he arrived at the fire scene to find a fire that really did not have to be extinguished, to be sent home to get his camera gear, come back and take a dozen photographs. We have narrowed down the time from the time that she was known to be alive until the fire department first arrived at the fire scene is no more than 6 minutes, 360 seconds. She was a smoker, yes, but there was no accelerant present, and there is no fire official anywhere in the world whom we have interviewed and discussed this case who can tell us how an adult human being can incinerate to this extent in the conditions that we have described to you and to your audience in no more than 360 seconds. Ergo, the mystery that fits all the classic concepts that history has called spontaneous human combustion, or in this case, what we prefer to call sudden human cremation.
Now, have we figured out at all about where this starts in the human body? Like, to me, if I think about it, I would think that it would probably start around the heart, or maybe something that you ate in your guts that all of a sudden, becomes flammable, whether it's alcohol, whether it's maybe a hot cherry from a cigarette or something along those lines. You know, I mean, we hear of hearts exploding due to massive heart attacks. What do you think's going on here?
What we have concluded from investigating hundreds of these cases and talking to first responders as well as eyewitnesses and looking at the pattern at the fire scene of what is left of the human body, it appears to us that in most cases, and in this subject, there is always an exception somewhere, but for most of the cases of classic SHC, it appears the point of origin of the energy, not necessarily fire. And in this context, we use the word fire largely in air quotes, because we do not believe this is an oxidizing type of combustion, but some other phenomenon. The point of origin appears to be, in most cases, in the classic cases in particular, to be in the lower abdominal area, from the heart to the torso to the abdomen. For those who have a background in metaphysics and esoteria, that would be the solar plexus area, third chakra center, a source that in terms of metaphysics and Eastern medicine is said to be a very high energy point in the body. So it appears that to us that in a witness case, and there were several witness cases, by the way, the point of origin is in the lower abdominal region, and that energy radiates outward like a fireball, quite literally. And whatever is within the radius of that fireball is almost instantaneously dehydrated. Beyond the radius of that fireball, you get the lower extremities, the forearms, perhaps the head, that is left intact to say that this pile of powder once indeed was a human being.
Not to sound grotesque here for a second, but could it be from holding in flatulence? I have to ask. I do.
That's quite fair. We're accustomed to hearing the question. In fact, we noticed one of your commentators made that very suggestion. People can light their farts, but we have never yet found a case where that is sufficient to then immolate a body more completely than can be done in a crematorium retort. If somebody has evidence for that, please let us know. We'll open to it. But doesn't sound like a plausible theory to us.
I'm very non-scientific. Okay, so I'm just wondering, is that because, when you're breaking wind, you're actually you're releasing the methane? Is it methane? Is that, yeah, or the gas, or let's just call it gas. You're not internalizing it. But I would think, like going back where the old theories which you've dismissed, where a lot of women back in the day, in the 1800s to 1930s, where it was impolite for a woman to break wind, that there would be maybe an internal buildup that could cause some sort of issue. I'm trying to be so polite around that question without sounding like a moron.
Sure. You would still need then a no one identifiable external ignition source. You would have to have somebody. We have cases of two women in dance halls in England where this phenomenon happened to them, surrounded by witnesses. It was claimed that someone dropped a cigarette or flipped a lit cigarette on one victim's clothing, and that the fabric ignited. Whether or not she was farting at the moment, history doesn't tell us. However, the father of the victims had a sample of the dress material. He tried to ignite it, and it would not burn. So that kind of rules that out instantaneously, if you will.
Okay, so the idea, though, that this might be something energetic within a person, you don't think it would be due to diet, or or due to lack of exercise, lack of vitamins within the body, what have you?
Right. Again, as we said, if we could get that kind of information on a consistent basis for case after case after case, we would certainly be looking for those kinds of patterns for a potential plausible cause. We just do not have that information. The only dietary information we've been able to accumulate so far dealt with Dr. Bentley. That's the physician in northern Pennsylvania in 1966 who burned his body through his bathroom floor, the photograph we showed earlier to your viewers. We were told by his caretakers that he spent the last few years of his life living on a diet, believe this or not, of shredded wheat and coffee. Maybe that has something to do with his particular instance that led to his remarkable immolation. We simply don't know. We doubt, though, that the other cases in our database spent their lives, the last years of their lives, on a diet of shredded wheat and coffee.
Well, that's
Most of our victims appear to be, really fairly healthy. They don't have mental problems. They don't have a history of attempting suicide by fire. It just appears to be a random happenstance event. They were at the right place, but at the wrong time, or at the right time at the wrong place.
What's your favorite case?
Oh, wow. We'd have to say it was Dr. Bentley, the physician who burned himself through his bathroom floor, because that was the case that introduced us visually, as well as a researcher, to the remarkable details of this case. Had we not been given an initial lead that tipped us off that this might be SHC, it would have been lost to history, because the local fire department, the local first responders, were not willing to talk publicly about it. It took some effort to get Don Gosnell to sit down with us and talk about it. We met with the deputy coroner. We talked to the coroner at the time. We talked to all the first responders we could find. We even talked to relatives of Dr. Bentley. All of them agreed quietly that this was a fire scene that belied everything they knew about the impact, the behavior of fire, oxidizing type fire, on a human body. It made no sense whatsoever to them. Well, we heard that there were photographs allegedly taken. We tried to find them. We eventually did manage to obtain the photographs from the photographer, who said he would never publish them. He gave them to us to do as we wished. We copyrighted them, of course. We own those images. They depict a fire scene that is so remarkable, so bizarre, that when we saw the photograph, it was so atypically different from all the fire photographs that we had previously seen in any forensic textbook. And it so classically fit the definition of historical SHC. We said, Mrs. Reeser is no longer a one-off. Now we've got 2 cases. Maybe there's a third or fourth. Well, in 50 years, we found several hundred cases that describe and fit fire scenes like Mrs. Reeser and Dr. Bentley. So for that reason, Dr. Bentley is our favorite case. Another one that stands out is the death that happened to George Mott, a retired firefighter, no less, who in 1986 in upstate New York incinerated himself through his bed, through the floorboards below the bed, and into an earthen crawl space below. Very reminiscent of Dr. Bentley's fire scene. We made 2 trips to upstate New York to meet with the first responders, the fire officials in the George Mott case. This is us back in 1986, that handsome guy with the long brown hair, meeting with Tony Moret, the local fire investigator for Essex County, and other fire officials. What they discovered back in March of 1986 in George Mott's bedroom was a body that had burned itself through his mattress, as we said, through the bedding, through the floor, and the fire marshal, Tony Moret, had to literally shovel up George Mott's ashes from below the bed. George Mott left behind 2 pieces of anatomy in that bed. One is his lower right leg. This photograph, sadly, is out of focus, not our fault. It was taken by Tony Moret. But here are Mr. Mott's toes, ankle, going up to his kneecap. At the other end of the bed was Mr. Mott's head. According to the fire officials who served with him in the Ticonderoga and Crown Point fire departments, that head shrank to the size of an orange, very reminiscent of the case of what was said about Mrs. Reeser back in 1951. We have 3 cases in our database that speak of abnormally shrunken human heads at these fire scenes. Again, that is exactly the opposite of what first responders, fire investigators, and medical examiners expect to find at a fatal fire scene. Heads, when exposed to tremendous heat, fracture, break apart normally, but not in cases that fit the definition of spontaneous human combustion.
We have about 90 seconds to go before we have to go to break. At the top of the hour, Larry Arnold, spontaneous human combustion, is the topic tonight. If we have to carry over this answer through the break, that would be understandable as well, because I always seem to get these power questions right before we go to break, and I hate that about myself, but that's okay. Question is, that fire seems to burn so hot to turn somebody to ashes, yet the surrounding areas, you don't see houses getting caught on fire. You don't see, the rest of the area burned. You just see that area where the body was. How is that even possible?
And there is the big question, and why this causes so much xenophobic response within the mainstream fire community, mainstream scientific community. When we come back after the break, we'd love to tell you and your listeners, give you some basic background about fire science, what should be happening at a fire scene when a house structure burns to the ground, and yet is not found in the cases that we're sharing with you tonight. So let's pick that up after the break, okay?
Yeah, it absolutely amazes me how you look at the photographs. Everything where that person was is charred, and the body is turned to dust, like you said, like a cremation. Yet, the walls are still intact, the paintings are still, hanging, the ashtray is still full. Back in the day, because that's what people did, was smoke in their house. Many of the youngsters won't remember that, having yellow ceilings, right? But here we are. Larry Arnold is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Spontaneous human combustion is the conversation, and we're going to continue this amazing story. Find Larry's book on Amazon, ABLAZE, Spontaneous Human is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, we are clear. Larry, we're going to turn things over to Dirty Filth here for a few minutes.
Okay.
We got about 5.5 minutes. I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back, okay?
Excellent.
All right, Dirty, it's your show.
Oh, it's my show. All right, slices of pizza for everybody. Just put it on Dave's credit card. All right, had a little bit of cats were out of control earlier. I had to stop for a little bit. Hope everybody's enjoying the show tonight. It's a pretty interesting topic. Like Dave said, I used to see this stuff on Unsolved Mysteries and Time Magazine and Reader's Digest all the time, and it's kind of interesting. So, anyways, I drew a UFO picture the other night on Monday, and one of my friends requested another one. So I dug it out of my files. So this is the best I can do. I can't show the actual picture because CIA will come after me. But excuse me. It's almost time for some tea. Hello, lovely Julie. Yes, Linda, it's interesting stuff. Look at that. I got the chat all regularly in order here. It's because my internet's actually working. Usually the internet's really terrible here, so I don't get to see the chat in time. But anyways, rambling away here. I was going to say, this whole second book is almost done. I don't actually have a copy of my first book on hand because I sold it. I had to scribble in it. Gave it to Brian Bowden. Thanks, Brian, if you're listening. Apparently he's got like 10,957 radio stations, according to Dave. But, anyways. You know what, Fast Hemi? I don't have to use shampoo anymore because I'm bald. Oh, he's talking about a rug. Never mind. Reading time. Yeah, back in the day, people used to scoff ciggies in their house. Did a lot of painting in old houses, and you go to move the painting or whatever is along the wall, and the wall's all perfectly clear, and everything's just a thick yellow slime all over it. Comical. Hello, Andrew and Gnomes Trucking, and Tim and everybody else. Oh, yes. Also, I did this hot sauce drawing with some aliens eating hot sauce because I went for some spicy wings tonight. My mouth is still a little bit burny. Mayhem. Actually, I think Mayhem is coming to Edmonton this earlier or later on this year. Mayhem and Mortis. Or Mortis. I don't know. I've heard it called different things. It's gonna be kind of neato. I've never seen Mortis live, so that's gonna be good. Yeah, I'm pretty good with my hot sauce now. I've regulated myself down to about 3 bottles in the fridge. It doesn't help my work. Distributes all types of hot sauces, so I'm looking at these things and all the seasonings and spices. And anyways, rambling away. I'm starving.
How were those hot wings?
They're pretty good. I got them extra burny.
What kind of hot sauce were you pounding back?
Well, the guy makes it with he uses some extract and some of his own homemade stuff that he puts together. I think I'm pretty sure he uses strawberries as some kind of base because it's got a little sweetness to it. It's not just face melty. He's a mad scientist, I tell you, Dave.
A lot of people use blueberries to help
I would like to see a Saskatoon berry one. I'm going to go give the cat snacks, Dave.
All right, Dirty Filth, thank you very much.
I'll pet Blob for you.
Thank you. Larry, we got just about a minute and a half here before we're going to get going.
Good enough.
All right. I'm just highlighting some of the questions that are going to be coming at you here momentarily. Oh, cold in my lungs. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Feels colder than minus 25 out there.
It does.
Yeah, I think we're probably around that 28.
Feels like minus 30.
Yeah. That would be why. That's not hoodie weather. No.
Stay in the house and wear a hoodie weather.
Oh, God. Tell me about it. Oh. Big thank you tonight to Deborah Rooney and Jay for our super chats. Greatly appreciate the love and support, everybody. That's awesome. Oh, hot blueberry and peach salsa.
Ooh,
That sounds lovely.
really good.
Yeah. Sounds very lovely. All right. I got to have some hot wings now. I'm craving hot wings now.
Had 'em on Sunday.
Yeah, but with stupid hot sauce.
Oh,
Yeah. Super Sleuth, how you doing? And Larry, we got about 5 seconds here. Here we go with the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're talking spontaneous combustion here on the show. Thank you so much for tuning us in. Greatly appreciate burning your listening ears. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. I have no idea what this is. Tanniacide? Tanniacide is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's get to our great guest tonight, Larry Arnold. First time on the show. First time we've ever talked about spontaneous human combustion on Spaced Out Radio. His book, The Mystery Fires of ABLAZE, A Spontaneous Human Combustion, can be found on Amazon right now. Thank you, Larry, for joining us. This is just a remarkable, remarkable show, and we're really appreciating your expertise on this.
And here's the book. Hundreds and hundreds of cases that would have been lost to history if we had not researched them and documented them in ABLAZE. It makes for fascinating reading. Some people tell us it's like a Stephen King novel, but it's not nonfiction. You ask us at the top of the hour about basic fire science. If we can pursue that with you right now, give you a real quick course in Fire Science 101. First off, when we grew up, there were 3 degrees of burn injuries: first, second, and third degree burn. Third degree being, the worst kind. Now there are 4-degree burn, fourth degree burns, which involves burning that goes deep into the muscle tissue. But the cases that we're describing to you go way beyond that. So we're dealing with a whole new classification of burn injury here with the subject of SHC. Second point, house fires. House fires rarely exceed 15 to 1700 degrees Fahrenheit. These are structures that burn to the ground. When people have burned inside house structures, the body can be picked up, put in a bag, taken to the morgue, and autopsied. You can find evidence of the exact cause of death: smoke inhalation, asphyxiation. If it's an arson murder case where the criminal tried to cover up the evidence of foul intent by burning the victim. We have experts who tell us that regardless of how badly a body is burned, she, for example, can always find evidence of foul play, criminal intent, a stab wound, gunshot wound, something like that. In the bodies, or in the remains of the bodies of Mrs. Reeser, Dr. Bentley, the fireman George Mott in upstate New York, and many other cases, we are challenged that person to find any evidence of foul play in the ashes of the body that these fires left behind. In a crematorium, the cadaver is exposed in a retort to temperatures of about 22 to 2400 degrees Fahrenheit for 60 to 90 minutes. The retort temperature is then lowered to 17 to 1800 degrees for another hour and a half, perhaps 2.5 hours, depending on the body mass. What comes out of a crematorium retort is not just some ashes, but bone fragments. The fragments are raked out of the retort, put in a cremulator, fancy name for a bone grinding device, to get the fine powder that is put in the urn to be given to the next of kin. We find bodies in classic SHC fire scenes to be burned more completely than in a crematorium retort. That these people were burning up in smoking mishaps, as the debunkers often claim is the case. They burned in a dropped cigarette or dropped pipe or carelessly tossed match mishap. Why do crematorium owners who are businessmen spend $100,000 on a retort, on filtration equipment, on licensing fees, on 40 to 50 gallons of fuel oil to power the retort's flames, and a cremulator, when for the cost of a cigarette and a free match at a bank, they could get the same result? Nobody's ever given us a good answer to that question because, frankly, there isn't a good answer to that question.
No kidding. No kidding. That is completely odd to the fact. Question for you.
Yeah.
The victims who have this happen, are they suffering? Do they know it's going to happen? Do they know that there's something wrong? Are they sleeping, unable to move, maybe some sort of body paralysis?
Let's address the latter first. We have cases of people sitting in a chair, driving an automobile, walking, sleeping, wide awake, when this phenomenon begins in their bodies. Do they have a forewarning? In the survivor cases, in the fatal cases, clearly we have no idea. Although there is one case from England, Robert Bailey in 1967, who was found lying at the bottom of a staircase with his jaw embedded in a newel post on the staircase, on the stair railing. The fire brigade commander whom we interviewed, Jack Stacy, thought that Mr. Bailey had died in agonizing pain because the jaw was clenched into the newel post. We disagreed with that. We think that was a muscle reflex, not an indication that he had suffered. In the survivor cases, the individuals that we've spoken to, there's no indication of any kind of agonizing pain, not even significant discomfort. It's not like you put your hand on a hot stove plate and go, ouch, that burns. We don't get that from these people. At most, we get commentary of a tingling sensation, as with blood being cut off momentarily in your forearm, for example, or a mild heat rising up the backbone, perhaps over the shoulder. Nothing like the agonizing pain that you would get from being exposed to a hot, open flame. In the witness cases, as an aside, most of the cases that are observed report the body being enveloped in a bright electric blue colored light. Again, not typical of an oxidizing fire unless you're talking about high heat gasoline flame, natural gas flame. So that suggests again to us that we're dealing with a phenomenon best explained not by an oxidizing combustion process, but by something that is biochemical, bioelectrical, or plasma related, or we can get into all kinds of arcane stuff after that. These are not normal fires, in other words. They do not produce normal fire injuries. They do not produce normal fatal fire scenes.
So we really don't know.
That is the bottom line. Yeah. Despite the 50 years, despite spending 2/3 of our present life expression delving into this incredible mystery around the world, we don't have answers yet. We've got lots of theories, but nothing that we can take to the laboratory. Amusing aside, years ago, David Letterman ask us to appear on the show to discuss the subject. We said, great, fine. We can have fun with this subject with you, Dave, and it'll get our research known to a much broader audience. Wonderful. One thing, Larry, he said, or his aide said, we need you to come on camera with someone who was spontaneously combust on cue. Really? Well, we can't provide that. Sorry, Dave. And even if we could, it would not be in your venue that would present this information. It would be at a national firefighting convention. These cases, as we alluded to earlier, are unpredictable. We don't know where or when the next case will present. History has not known when or where or how previous cases have transpired. And that's part of the mystery. It's also part of the dilemma, the difficulty of studying this phenomenon. It is not something that we can imagine, at least under current scientific methodology, not something that can be taken to the lab and experimentally reproduced again and again. We try to find a mechanism by which it happens. So we're out here wandering in the dark, like many people do in the field of any fortean phenomenon, looking for evidence and trying to make the best sense of the clues that nature provides to us. And that's where our research stands at this moment.
Do you think you'll ever find the answers?
Oh, we hope. We noticed that some of your comments are billed as one lady as a psychic medium, Rebecca, we believe. We are very open to dealing with clairvoyance, clairsentience. We are looking for any opportunity, any venue, any outlet, any contact that can give us some insight as to how these cases can be best explained. So that's one reason we love doing shows like this with you folks. It gets our work out to a larger audience that we can learn about new cases perhaps, or network with people who can give us insight from their unique perspectives.
One final question before we get to some audience questions here for you. Have you ever interviewed a survivor of this to see what they went through, what was going on with their body at that point? What was the reaction to it?
Yes, we have. And the survivors are discussed in 2 chapters in our book, ABLAZE. The most dramatic one would be Jack Angel. He was a traveling salesman back in 1974, went to sleep at his motorhome, expecting to meet with a client the following morning to hopefully sell some clothing to. When he did awake, he discovered that his right forearm was burned black, charred to the bone. His pajamas were not burned. The sheets on which his body slept were not singed. He awakened, got out of his motorhome, feeling no pain, walked into a Ramada Inn, the parking lot of which he had been the previous night, and fainted. When he regained consciousness, he found himself surrounded by a team of physicians in the Savannah Memorial Hospital, marveling about how this patient of theirs could have burned himself so severely. This was not a scalding water burn injury. This was something that looked like it had been high heat, very high energy that, as we said, burned his forearm to the bone. He had other burn injuries in his chest, on the nape of his neck, and his groin area. We interviewed several of the physicians who dealt with treating Jack's injuries. We have the medical documentation that says the burns were diagnosed as, and this is not in air quotes, but in real quotes, internal in origin. We have no way but one to interpret that phrase. That is, he burned from the inside out. That would be, by definition and experience, spontaneous human combustion. He felt no pain during the initial hours of realizing what had happened to him. The burn injury was so severe that he had to choose between painful reconstruction or having the forearm amputated. He opted for the latter. And we will never forget sitting down in front of Jack Angel as he told us his story, waving that forearm, that stump of a right arm in our face and saying, this had to be spontaneous human combustion. Other survivors that we have interviewed talk about having smoke emanating from their forearm, from their back, from other parts of their body, experiencing at best sensation of tingling or low heat, but no pain like one would associate with having been exposed to an open, hot flame.
Oh my, that's just creepy. There's nothing that I would want than to not go through that.
You
Ooh.
mentioned creepy Dave. If with your permission, we're going to read you one case that we discovered that had been lost to history. Just a couple paragraphs. It comes from a physician. And talk about creepy. Get a load of this one. Do we have your permission?
Please go for it.
Go for it. This case comes from a Dr. Pierre Quinn, Spanish physician, who wrote about this incident that occurred on November 10, 1731, to a 60-year-old female in Vitry, which is a village in eastern France. What we're going to say at this point is directly quoting Dr. Pierre Quinn. Her body, though reduced to ashes, appeared at first to be quite whole. One surprisingly noticed the folds of her dress, upon which her right arm and fingers were like firebrands. A firebrands is what you get in a fireplace with small twigs that have been burned black. On touching the fingers, one found no more than ashes. All the bones, even the largest, were consumed. We continue to quote, where the fire stopped, i.e. on the hearth, the head was intact. Regarding the legs, the fire had lost its activity towards the middle of the right leg and had not in any way burned the stocking. There was no mention of alcohol in this case. Now, that is very reminiscent of what happened to Dr. Bentley and George Mott, two cases that we recently investigated. Pierre concludes this. It's an outlandish tale of a lady burned to dust between her chin and her right knee. Burned to dust where not in contact with any proven external flame. Burned to dust inside her unburned clothing. Talk about crazy and weird. That nails it.
No kidding. No kidding. I want to get to some audience questions here because there is one that's been kind of got me going here. It comes from Paul, who's asking, any reports of paranormal activity prior to the event? And I'll even add to that after the event.
Love that question. Thanks, Paul. Boy, there are a lot of ways to answer that. First off, it's incredibly difficult to document and identify just one of these cases of SHC, let alone looking for other weird stuff in the local environment. Having said that, we will say this. In northern Pennsylvania, where Dr. Bentley immolated in 1966 in his bedroom, there is all kinds of paranormal phenomena that has been documented in that region of northern Pennsylvania. In fact, this amazing thing that we personally discovered, Dr. Bentley incinerated on North Main Street in downtown Coudersport. Around Coudersport are at least 5 areas that we have discovered where water freezes out of season. In other words, in late spring and early summer, not in the cold of winter. Those 5 areas form a triangle, a perfect triangle, so far as we've been able to ascertain using topological maps, of about 27 square miles in size. Dr. Bentley lived in the middle of that frigid water triangle. There are accounts of Bigfoot in the area, other cryptids in the area, thunderbirds, for example. We've talked to a couple people who tell us what we believe are credible accounts of abduction experiences. So that's one area that's a locus for all kinds of phenomena besides SHC. In the United Kingdom, we have more cases of SHC and pyrophenomena per capita than anywhere else on the planet. We have enough data available to plot locations of those fires on a map, looking for patterns. That's what a good researcher should be doing. What we discovered is that more than 80% of the anomalous fire cases that we have in the UK, Wales, Scotland, and England can be connected by straight alignments. One alignment that roughly parallels the east coast of England going up into Scotland may connect as many as a dozen cases of mostly SHC type fires. Statistically, that is incredibly significant and suggests that there's a telluric and earth energy mechanism at play, at least in some of these weird fires. If the proof of a theory leads one to new discoveries that the theory predicts should happen, the fire lane theory, as we call it, the alignment of these strange fires, really comes into play, because we use that map to find a new case of SHC by going to Lincolnshire and talking to the fire brigade commander there about a case that was in his jurisdiction that he had consciously dismissed until we showed up and started asking about any such fires. It involved a hermit who lived in a tar shack, a tinderbox of an environment, in which his body had immolated to powder so completely between stacks of newspaper and other combustibles that the first responders were literally walking through his ashes looking for the resident, not realizing that he had burned to powder, literally, in the pathway between a pile of combustibles in which they were walking. It also led us to a new case that happened in 1980 in Wales along one of these alignments to Henry Thomas, a case that also fits the classic concept of sudden human cremation or spontaneous human combustion.
Incredible. All right, let's go to Jennifer here. What if you think you're having a hot flash, but you get what looks like burn blisters? Could that be similar?
Very interesting. We have spoken to many women who have experienced agonizingly hot menopausal hot flashes, but they don't lead to blistering. Now, if Jennifer has experienced a situation in which her body is actually blistered in the absence of a known external ignition source, heat source, that would, by our definition of SHC, meet the criteria for having herself experienced some level of spontaneous human combustion, and we would very much like to hear from her. Our email address is very simple. It is shc@gmail.com. Contact us.
Awesome. Let's move on here. Let's go to Joanne. What about smoke? I would think that the home would be full of black smoke.
And you would be quite correct in thinking that, Joanne, if these were normal fire scenes. Normal fire scenes will normally produce, when they involve a human being, a lot of dense black smoke. Not so in the cases of SHC. Dr. Bentley's apartment in 1966, according to Don Gosnell, the first person who entered that apartment, had traces of a wispy, whitish blue smoke, but certainly not dense. In the case of Conway, to the opposite extreme, Conway is the lady who left her two lower legs propped up against the edge of her chair outside of Philadelphia. There was dense black smoke that had to be ejected by the first responders. In the Reeser case from 1951 in St. Pete, Florida, the lady who left behind her 1 foot and satin slipper unburned, and a alleged shrunken head, and a few pieces of calcined vertebrae. Also, no dense smoke was present. In the Bentley case, by the way, we recently made contact with and interviewed the lady who in 1966 lived directly across the street from Dr. Bentley's home. Now, keep in mind, this was early December 1966. It was cold in Countersport that morning. She awakened and remarked to her mother that, gee, isn't it weird? Somebody nearby is barbecuing. Why would anybody in Countersport in December 1966 on a cold, blistering morning be barbecuing outdoors? We believe that she smelled aroma from Dr. Bentley's immolation across the street, wafting across to her nostrils.
Oh, weird. Weird. We only got about 25 seconds here before we go. We're going to load up the next half hour with audience questions, because if you're in our YouTube chat room, if you're listening in on the radio side, if you ever want to join us on the radio or the YouTube side, that's where we get our questions from, along with X. So if you want to participate in the show, that is the place to do it. This is Spaced Out Radio. Our guest is Larry Arnold. We'll be right back with more spontaneous human combustion.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we are clear. This is going by way too fast. Way too fast.
Or interpret that as you're being quite happy with what's happening at our
Yes.
end. Excellent.
Yes.
Cool.
To be
Thumbs up.
honest with you, I'm a little pissed off because I could probably go about 4 or 5 hours with you on this topic, and I'm a little upset that we only got about half an hour left. Yeah, we may be forced. All right. So good. So good. Can we get your email once again, please, Larry?
Absolutely. It's one that we use only for this research. So it is kind of priority, but here it is. And it's real simple. SHC happens at Gmail.
All right. SHC happens at gmail.com.
Perfect.
That's right. I've typed that in the chat room. Such an awesome show. That is such an awesome show. So happy right now.
Question for you.
Waited years for this topic, man. Years.
Will we have opportunity to get a copy of the chat comments?
Yes. Yeah. So once I hit stop on the YouTube side, I'm one of these channels. I leave the comments up, so you'll be able to read through them.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah. In the studio, happy birthday to your daughter, Aurora. We got a bunch of questions here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through them all. I'm going to do my best. So if they don't get through, we're just going to have to bring Larry Arnold back. We may have to offer him a taco dinner or something like that, but we'll have to bring him back. Larry, I hope you have enjoyed tonight. It's a little bit different than a podcast or whatever.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed it.
We are indeed. This is fun. We love your format. We love looking at the scrolling comments that are coming in, writing a few of them down. Eager to look at all of them afterwards. You're a great interviewer, great host. We like the flow, the development. Thumbs up to you guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And if you want, after this show, if you want to take the YouTube and post it on your own channel or whatever, please feel free to do so.
Thank you very much.
All right. We got about a minute 20 left. All right. Thank you tonight to Deb and Jay for our super chats. We always appreciate the love and support, everybody. And don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store because we do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag, so make sure you go check it on out. It's a great time here on the show tonight. Thank you all for being here. If you're new, make sure you hit subscribe, ring that bell, as we are here 7 days a week for your listening entertainment. That's right, 7 days. I'm here Monday through Friday. Sweet Robbie G is here Saturday and Sunday, and we have a great time all around. We got about 20 seconds. All right, my friend, down to about 10. And here we go. Here we go with the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. What do you think of spontaneous combustion? My name is Dave Scott. That is our topic tonight. We'll get to Larry Arnold here momentarily. But first, I want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go. Larry Arnold. He has a book on Amazon about spontaneous human combustion, the mysterious fires of ABLAZE. Spontaneous human combustion. It can be found right now. Great one to add to your library. Larry, thank you so much for being here, and glad to hear you are enjoying tonight's show.
Absolutely.
All right. We're going to get right into audience questions here because we got a bunch of them. And we are going to head on over to, let's see here, Joe. How hot of a fire do you need to burn a human body?
If you're doing it in a crematorium, as we said, you need temperatures about 22 to 2400 degrees Fahrenheit, in that range for quite a long period of time. Arson murderers try to destroy the evidence of the crime by incinerating a body, dousing it with gasoline, for example. In fact, one of our detractors, John DeHaan, America's God of Fire, he was called, attempted to prove the Wicca theory and therefore disprove SHC by burning a pig carcass on television several years ago. He did so by first dousing it with a liter of gasoline, which is very bad scientific protocol because none of our cases involve an accelerant. He subsequently lied on camera about a case. To represent a human body, he took a fistful of candles and wrapped it in cotton, placed it on a futon, and then lit it. Now, first critique of that is, does anybody listening to your show, Dave, believe that the human body can be represented by a fistful of candles? That's preposterous. He lit the body, came back, and the television show showed him standing outside the burn chamber, pointing into what he said was a localized fire that had basically self-extinguished. Ergo, SHC doesn't need to be invoked to explain these localized human incinerations. Problem is, that's not exactly what happened because the television program on the Learning Channel edited out a very significant portion of that experiment. And what actually happened was that the burn chamber was within seconds of going flashover. That is, there was so much fire, such incredible heat that the entire burn chamber was about to spontaneously combust itself. It was not a self-contained, localized, self-extinguishing fire. Fire suppression equipment had to be brought in to quickly quell that blazing inferno. So we have an expert here willing to go public on camera and lie about his theory to explain away the cases that we've been discussing with you that history calls spontaneous human combustion. That's dishonest. That's disreputable. It's an outright lie. If our research is that disturbing that a fire professional has to lie in public about his experimentation to disprove SHC, then what are we dealing with here? We must be dealing with a real phenomenon that is just too distressing and too uncomfortable for some experts to deal with.
I believe that. Totally believe that. Let's go to Lex here, who is asking, was any radioactivity ever detected in any of these cases?
Wow. We have urged that first responders at these remarkable fire scenes take in a scintillator to look for radiation. because we have reason to suspect that in some of these cases there may be low-level radiation present. To back up that challenging statement, we have a book jacket from the George Mott fire scene. That's the fireman in upstate New York who incinerated through his mattress and through the floor below the bed. The book jacket is from a book that, believe it or not, contained a chapter about spontaneous human combustion. That book jacket has been analyzed scientifically, and it shows a remarkable shift in the amount of carbon-14 present in that book jacket. It should not be there. The only reasonable way to interpret that is that indeed there was radiation in the home of George Mott shortly after he incinerated. We were at that fire scene twice, about a month, 3 to 4 weeks after it first happened. So by that time, we suspect the radiation had dissipated. We were not in danger. But to first responders who are at these remarkable fire scenes, within minutes of them happening, it could be a health issue for them to contend with and to know about. But until that kind of research and equipment is brought to these fire scenes immediately upon first alarm, we will never know. Good question.
All right. Moving on. Let's bring Deb in here. Could all of this be tied to electricity in our bodies?
We believe very much so. As we've said repeatedly through this interview, we do not believe these are oxidizing type fires. We believe they are biochemical or bioelectrical. The body, every living body is an electrical cauldron, a lot of electricity at the cellular level. If each cell were to simultaneously, spontaneously discharge its potential across cell membranes, we're looking at a lot of voltage, perhaps a lot of amperage that could fry the body from the inside out. One of the theories we discuss at length in our book, ABLAZE.
All right, moving on. Let's go to Gloria. What is the most common age group this happens?
The most common age group for SHC cases is certainly the elderly. As we said earlier, that's not surprising to us. The body tends to break down as it ages. Biological mechanisms just start to fall apart as one grows older for many people. So most of our cases in the database are in the age range of 60, 70, getting up into the 80s. The oldest victim in our database appears to have been a Hindu holy man said to be aged 115 when he immolated on a straw mat. The straw mat itself did not burn. In that case, said to be witnessed, he emanated a bluish-green flame from his solar plexus area. We have children who apparently have also experienced this phenomenon, so we have a wide range in which this phenomena appears to have happened, but clearly the elderly are more prone to experiencing it.
All right, let's continue on. Let's go to Fast Hemi. How long does it take for the human body to burn?
Depends what the ignition source is and if an accelerant has been used or not used. The best time frame we can put on that under normal circumstances is what happens to a cadaver in a crematorium, as we've said. Temperatures of 22 to 2400 degrees Fahrenheit for 60 to 90 minutes, and then the retort temperatures are lowered for another hour to an hour and a half, usually. Speaking about cremation, we had the opportunity to identify and speak with a fire chief who also owned a crematorium. Now, this guy, if anybody, should know what happens to a body in a fire scene. And under normal circumstances, he was the expert to talk to. But as we sat down with him and discussed our research with him and showed him the photographs and the circumstances of the fires that those photographs depict, he was bumfuddled and blown away. He told us flat out, as a fire chief of 20 years and a crematorium operator, he did not know that a body could burn up, as do the cases that we've been describing to you and your audience this evening.
Okay, let's continue on here. Let's go to Jay. I went to the doctor about something that happened to me after a UFO landing site, because I don't UAP. Those are man-made objects. My skin blistered up only on my arms. The doctors called it unexplained skin eruption. Have you heard of this?
Unexplained skin eruption could cover all kinds of medical situations involving dermal tissue. However, we would ask this person to contact us by email because in our book ABLAZE, we devote an entire chapter to people who say they have been burned by contact with what can be best described, at least to us, as alien source technology. For you Canadians, probably no doubt many of you know about the 1967 case involving Stefan Mihalik at Falcon Lake with the grid pattern burned on his chest. We discuss him at length in many other cases that appear or are said to involve UAPs, UFOs, objects that, with our limited knowledge, we certainly don't have a high security level clearance, nonetheless appear to involve alien technologies.
All right, let's continue on here. Let's go to Blue Cruise. Could spontaneous human combustion be a form of a self-destruction button that was unintentionally set off by forces outside of the human body?
First part of that question suggests that the questioner is asking if this could be willfully induced by the victim. We have no evidence for that. However, it is not outside the realm of our reality construct to consider that as a plausible condition for this phenomenon to occur. As far as being set off by forces outside of the human body, absolutely. Our research into the cartography of combustion, the alignment of fires in the UK, suggests that there are indeed forces outside the body, not recognized by geophysicists, not recognized by mainstream science, that could have thermal impact on the human body. We also have cases that can be explained by fireballs that have been seen coming from the sky and hitting an individual. So we have an explanation that is external to explain some of these spontaneous burn cases. If the person had not been looking in a mirror to see the fireball coming through the window and hitting his or her body, however, then the mystery would still be there. How did that person burn?
Let's go to Paul here. Any cases where this event occurred outside?
Absolutely. If cases, as we said very early, of people walking, we have one case from England where the female victim was in a boat on a lake with her family when this was said to happen to her. Peter Jones, one of the survivors that we interviewed, his first case happened while he was sitting on the edge of his bed with his wife one morning in October 1980. His body was suddenly engulfed in a plume of whitish smoke. Both were absolutely mystified. Neither could find any external ignition source in the bedroom. Later that afternoon, when he was alone outside in his automobile, his forearm erupted for the second time in that amazing day in his life. Smoke erupted from his right forearm, or he sat in his car at a railroad grade crossing. So yes, these events do occur outside.
Let's move on to, let's see here. Jessica is asking, were any of these sites tested for EMF?
Not that we know.
Why would they if they didn't know?
Exactly. Again, this is not something that fire responders have in their bag of tricks and in their investigation kits. We need to look outside the normal investigative box if we're going to come to an understanding of how these fires occur.
All right. Let's go to another one here. Follow up from Jessica. Do you think it could be some sort of bodily plasma buildup?
We do believe plasma can explain some of these cases. Absolutely. We've looked at this phenomenon from the standpoint of quantum physics. We've run some calculations and have those calculations indicate to us the hypothetical existence of an incredibly minute but awesomely powerful subatomic particle that could collide with a quark or an atom in the human body and consequently sets off a chain reaction that is hyper fast, hyper hot, and instantaneous. We devote a chapter to that theory in our book, ABLAZE. For those of you who want a more scientific basis to look into the phenomenon, we can suggest you look at that chapter.
What about a person's environment? Like, say, for instance, do they live in warmer climates? Do they live in areas that are closer to sea level? Do they live in the mountains? Do they live near water sources or energy sources like coal plants or nuclear power facilities?
Not that we found. We have cases in Africa, North America, South America, Europe, certainly, Russia, the Orient. The only place on the planet that we don't yet have one plausible case for SHC is Antarctica. Surprisingly, not many people down there. Also incredibly difficult to learn about a case there if it indeed happened.
That'd be awesome if you could, though.
Yeah, wouldn't it?
That would be awesome. Okay, let's continue on here. Let's go to our next question from Lenda. What is the average age of these victims, or is it just random?
The average age again would be elderly, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old of age. We do have a few cases at the other extreme, very young children. We have two girls from West Hampshire in England, ages 4 and 5, if memory serves, the Kirby girls, who one afternoon in 1899, apparently, according to the newspaper clips we have in our possession, spontaneously ignited 1 mile apart from each other. We were at the house where one of those girls, presumably burned spontaneously, both succumbed fatally to their injuries. Very strange case. Very, very strange.
That. All right, let's go to Hillbilly Herb here. What's the oldest suspected case of spontaneously that is known? Is it a modern phenomena?
The oldest case we have in our database comes from India. And as we said, the victim in that instance was said to be a 115-year-old holy man, a Hindu yogi. Is it a modern phenomenon? No, it is not. We have cases from the medical literature that date back to the early 16th century at least. If we look at accounts from mythology, from the histories that date to Roman and Greek and Nordic times, we have descriptions that parallel quite precisely modern cases of SHC. So we believe that this is a phenomenon that has plagued mankind for millennia. And not surprisingly, we devote a chapter in our book to these old cases as well. It is not a modern phenomenon.
All right, let's move over to Jules here. Are the spontaneous human combustion events more common? Oh, I guess we asked that kind of in particular weather.
As we said, it was once argued in the 17 and early 1800s that all victims were elderly, senile, sedentary alcoholics who were living in either France or in Germany. And the cases always occurred in the winter. Therefore, people were burning up because embers from a fireplace leapt out of the fireplace onto their garments, or they were lighting some device or smoking a cigarette in front of a hearth. More cases in the winter, yes, but not by a great amount. We also have cases in the summer. So weather, we've not found any correlation to.
Paramarv is asking, as we got about 5 minutes to go here, is there any evidence that some of these cases may be due to any sort of direct energy weaponry?
Provocative question. Certainly this would not explain the cases from the 16, 17, 1800s, and 1900s. Getting into the 21st century, the U.S. military down here, the U.S. Army does have a device, an acoustic transmitter that will cause a body to whom that energy is projected to heat up quite quickly and incapacitate that person. So could there be more extreme energy weapons along that line that our government or some other government has? Probably yes. But again, we don't have the security clearance. What we're saying is this: you can read about this phenomenon in the tabloids, like this one from the Weekly World News. Almost all cases, even though we try to pursue them to see if there might be a lead, are fictionalized. What you will not find in ABLAZE, so far as we've been able to do, is find fiction cases. Our research has tracked cases that have been lost to history, as we said, in medical textbooks. We've talked to the first responders around the planet, documenting this amazing phenomenon. Whatever you want to say about it, in terms of disbelieving it and trying to explain it away by the Wick effect, and lying about it, openly lying about it, as many of our debunkers have done, you cannot honestly dismiss the evidence of the photographs and the testimonies that we have accrued to document the reality that's quite amazing, quite bizarre, and yet, at least for us, utterly fascinating phenomenon. This is something that lies outside, so far as we've been able to ascertain, current medical, scientific, and fire forensics knowledge.
Let's continue on here. Joe is asking, maybe it happens more often than people think, and houses do catch fire. What's your thoughts on that?
Our thoughts concur with that. Some cases of structure fires could be, we believe, a subset of spontaneous human combustion where the heat is so intense and so prolonged that nearby combustibles encounter their ignition points, erupt into open flame, oxidizing type combustion, and therefore it takes the entire structure down around the victim.
Lex is asking, when do you know the last case of this happening?
The most recent case that we have personally investigated and will stake our research and reputation on happened in 2013, February 18 of that year, if memory serves, in eastern Oklahoma. Classic case, very localized combustion. In this case, the victim's head, hands, 2 feet, and heart were left at the fire scene. Everything else was burned largely to powder. No heat or flame damage overhead of the point where the body burned through his floor. We have a critic who says there is SHC is impossible because there is no known case or internal organs are more destroyed than our external body parts. The case from Oklahoma belies that. Mary Reeser in Florida in 1951, Dr. Bentley in Pennsylvania in 1966, Helen Conway in Pennsylvania in 1964, George Mothert fireman in upstate New York in 1986, all refute that forensic experts means to reject SHC. He's wrong.
Final question from our audience. We just have about a minute to go here. This one comes from Tim. Could alcohol in the bloodstream be a factor?
It could be. Again, the medical community in the 17 and 1800s believed that all victims of so-called SHC were alcoholic sots. Soaking a body in alcohol, as we have done, and tried to burn it to powder, does not happen. A leading chemist back in the 1850s, von Liebig, did the same experiment. He failed also, and therefore concluded that SHC does not happen. His experiment was good. His results were good. His conclusion was unfortunately in error, but mainstream fire science has embraced it ever since, incorrectly so. But there are means, we believe, in which alcohol, in some instances, could engender a chemical reaction in the body that would result in human immolation from within.
20 seconds. Your book name.
ABLAZE, The Mysterious Fires of Spontaneous Human Combustion. Hundreds of pages documenting, often for the first time in public, or exploring in depth for the first time in public, these amazing instances of localized human consumption by what appears to be fire, but maybe by something completely different than oxidizing combustion processes.
Larry Arnold, everybody. You can find his book on Amazon. Fantastic guest. We're going to bring him back. Swamp Dweller and Little Timmy James are up next on Spaced Out Radio.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
You were amazing, my friend.
Thank you.
Absolutely amazing. We'd be honored to have you back.
We've been delighted to do a repeat with you.
Oh,
Lots
yeah.
more information, lots more photographs, lots more information we can share with you. This is a bizarre subject. But as you know, we spent a lifetime delving into it, and we hope we've convinced you that we've done our homework well.
Absolutely, you have. Thank you very much for staying up late, and we'll get Dirty Filth or Klaus to get back to you pretty quick on that. Okay.
Okay, very good. Pleasant evening out there in British Columbia. Be well.
Take care. Larry Arnold, everybody. How awesome was that? That was a home run guest. Home run guest. We'll be right back. That's at least minus 30 up there right now. I agree. Well, it says it warmed up a degree. Bullshit. That's lying. That's just lying right there. How we doing, everybody? How awesome was that get by Dirty Filth? What a great guest. Great guest. All right, let's get you ready.
Okay.
Not that one. Let's go here.
Okay.
Oh, my God, is it cold? Got to bring the camera down because you moved it on the speaker.
All right.
Still high. It's going to tilt down. That's perfect. 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 All right. Yeah, that was awesome.
I enjoyed it.
I'm still pumped up about that one. Yeah, thank Dirty Filth for that one. All right. Thank you tonight to Joanne, Mayhem, Jay, and Deborah Rooney for the super chats. Greatly appreciate the love. Don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Why, Tim?
Because we do not have ugly swag, people.
No ugly swag. Kurt M., how you doing? And here we go, everyone. Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate having your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Tayenia. I'm not even pronouncing that again because I don't like that word. I don't like it, but it is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. I'm a primary school graduate in Thailand, meaning I'm moving up to high school. This story takes place in my elementary school. It was a scout camp and we had to stay there for 3 days and 2 nights. On our second day, it rained heavily, so we had to move to our school to sleep there instead of sleeping at the camp. We carried what's left of our stuff and go back to the camp again to take any remaining belongings. A little bit of backstory about this school. It was built on an abandoned hospital in 1936, which of course probably has a lot of deaths stored in it. There was even a murder involving a couple. I don't know the full details yet, so I'll just leave it at that. That evening, we were in the large auditorium of our school. Our scout leaders were just putting on a show and it was still raining. We couldn't hear much of what they were saying because of the rain, unfortunately. So, we just started talking. After the show, the school just went silent with the exception of rain. I and my friend were just joking around about ghosts while walking up to our room to change the clothes after the shower. All of a sudden, we hear this screech from down below on floor 1. Note that we were on floor 5 of the building. We just figured that some kids were messing around with each other or something of the like. That night, I go to the bathroom with my friend. The show ended pretty late and we got to bed at around 1 a.m. So when I woke up, my friend went to go to the bathroom with me. He was not happy. He took a flashlight and we walked to our school bathroom, which was down on the 4th floor at the end of the hallway of the floor. While we were walking, we were hearing footsteps that just weren't ours. We started to panic and decided to run. On our way back, we couldn't hear the footsteps anymore, so we just walked and calmed down a bit. While we were walking back to our room, we see this figure that looked like a lady. A really tall lady. We figured that a teacher from the high school section of our school must be here late or something. We didn't know, and we prepared our ears for the lecture she was going to give us. As we walked closer, though, we immediately realized that the lady was floating. My friend scrubbed his eyes, and so did I. The lady was definitely floating and is now coming toward us. She was levitating about 5 inches off of the ground. Her head chopped open, but not all the way, like somebody used a machete to cut a log of wood and it got stuck. We immediately bolted for the intersection between the hallways with the second set of stairs and bolted it back to our room once we got back to floor 5. The scout leader that was patrolling the classroom, the one that gave us permission to go to the bathroom, immediately lectured us for running and probably waking up a lot of students. He pushed us back into the room, and the next morning we told our friends, but no one believed us. I'm still scared by this, of course. I moved out of that school this year, so I guess I'll forget about it later on. But this has made me wary of camping, even out in the woods.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another great creepy story. If you want more just like that, head on over to YouTube, type in Swamp Dweller, hit subscribe, ring that bell. You got thousands of stories right there, free for you. Time for the UFO report.
That is an interplanetary flying space saucer. You have made me very angry. Very angry indeed.
Little Timmy James is here, back again in studio for the UFO report. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. And you?
I'm frozen.
Well, that's the cool thing about being here right now. Cool thing is that no spontaneous combustion happening here, man. You just step outside the door for what, 2.3 seconds, and you're good.
Could you imagine what that would feel like? Like I wouldn't even know how to even think about that. I mean, I've burnt myself before. I think everybody's burnt themselves, but to actually like explode inside into a giant fireball,
no,
that's right out of a horror movie.
Yeah, I think the one that got me was where he said the guy went to sleep in his hotel room or whatever it was, his RV, and his arm was completely burnt down to the bone. It was like, how did you not wake up for that?
Right. Right.
It's so cool. It's so interesting. Very, very, very interesting topic this evening.
I don't get it.
Me neither.
I don't get it.
Nope.
I've always wanted to do a show, and that's one of those really hard subjects to try and find somebody qualified to talk about it.
Sure.
A lot of times when you get into more of those niche topics like spontaneous human combustion, a lot of times people who have researched it, they don't want to go on radio shows. They don't want to go on podcasts. They don't want to go on YouTube channels. So the fact that Larry Arnold came on and Dirty Filth, a.k.a. Klaus, we call him Kloos around here, Canadian way. Boot and Kloos.
That's
right. It's just, he did a great job. So, our booking coordinator, Klaus, he's phenomenal and absolutely brought on a complete expert on that subject. And the one thing I loved about him, he was ready for any question.
No kidding.
Every question we asked, whether it was for me or our great audience questions, it was phenomenal.
Well, my head was like, and I know, I'm sorry, I don't want to ramble about it, but my head was like, how is he going to go on for 2 hours about this topic? I was totally blown away. Like, I was like, oh my goodness, there's so much information.
We could have easily done another 2 to 3 hours with him.
Yeah.
And I don't think we would even scratch the surface.
That's so cool.
Can't wait to get him back.
Yeah, me too.
Cannot wait. From spontaneous human combustion to spontaneous UFOs.
Yeah.
What's going on here, man?
Well, gonna change it up a little bit tonight, and you and I've already talked about it. So I'm gonna give you a report here. There was a report on that Anna Paulina Luna put out, but I thought I'd just go woo factor on old school UFOs tonight and just bring up some old stories and some cool stuff that just bring back some good old UFO memories, if you know what I mean. But Anna Paulina Luna has been out, and she's got something to tell everybody, and there's a big story coming out, and it's a big secret, but she can't tell you. It'll be happening. So she was on a I guess a podcast, and I got a bit of a quote here, and it was like, so the guy that was doing the interview says to her, "Hey, your massive announcement that you teased earlier in the week, where you said, I'm going to do something that will change the face of the American government forever. Here's the exact language of your post," and that went thermonuclear. He said, "I have an announcement next week that will impact the entire nation. Press conference to be announced soon. Everyone's wondering if it's aliens. But maybe it goes even deeper than that. Can you tell us? I think it's bigger than that. I think you know without getting too much into the details, and the date will be posted soon. You'll find that date for the press conference. I'd actually encourage everyone to tune in, and we're going to be opening it up, if we can, to some independent journalists as well. But I think that for far too long, people have been lied to by their government. And I think the way that you regain trust and you really restore the nation, and I think bring back not just hope, but also other substantial good feelings, is to remember also that hope is contagious, but you really help it to secure it for future generations. I think that you have to have a fully transparent government, and so I won't get too much into the details, but we're going to be doing something really, really big. So I'm happy that I am trusted with this, and I'm going to be doing some good stuff with some incredible people, and I will leave it at that. Nothing burger, hot air, thoughts.
The question is, what is it about?
Yeah.
Okay. Knowing that many Republicans in the United States are very God-fearing Christian people, or at least have some sort of Christian belief or leaning on their side. Could it be aliens? Could it be that they've found life elsewhere? The thing that I don't understand is, why would a congressperson be coming out with this?
Right.
Okay. Anna Paulina Luna is somebody who has been extremely pro UFO. She has attended a few of the congressional hearings on this. She's been a leader on trying to get this subject out, along with Tim Burchett and Nancy Mace.
Yes.
So the fact that she has, this interview with, I believe, Benny Johnson.
Yes.
On his podcast, there's a guy he's just got one of those faces. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
He's one of those aha caught you guys.
Right.
And I'm not a fan of his.
No.
But you know what? We're going to give him kudos for bringing out this topic.
Sure.
And I wonder what it means, because this could go in so many different directions, and many people within the UFO community are, oh my God, she's going to admit there's aliens out there. Oh my God, it's ultra-terrestrials. Oh my God, it's time travelers. Oh my God. Oh my God, ET is coming back for part 2.
Way to go, Spielberg.
What do you think it is?
I don't know. I think because of the last, 3-4 months, I'm turning into a bit of a skeptic. It's like the parade and the fanfare before it all begins, and I just go, really? Okay. And I just want to sit back and wait. I'm not sure. I'm sure it has something to do with UFO, extraterrestrial, something in that realm. Maybe they're opening up a new department. Maybe they got the Whistleblowers Anonymous line open now that they could call. I don't know. I really don't know. It's one of those things that they build this big hype, and I'm just not, sticking both feet into the water yet. I'll wait and see what happens.
It's so confusing.
It is.
Why lead us on?
Yeah.
Why lead us on to something that, is like this? And I don't like when they do this. I don't like the hype, the buildup. I mean, this isn't, an episode of your favorite television show,
right,
where you need to wait a week before you see what's going on. And trust me, I'm one of those guys. I hate that.
Yeah. To be continued.
When I sink myself into a show,
yeah,
I am all in, because I don't have a lot of time.
Right.
So I am all in. And when I have to wait, all right, like I do with my one of my favorite shows out there. It's a hockey show
Mhm.
called Shoresy. And it's killing me that I got to wait another couple of days in order to catch the next new episode.
Right.
And their
Yeah.
seasons, by the way, totally off topic. here for a
Okay.
second. Okay. Whatever happened to proper television seasons
Oh, they
where they were like 13 episodes,
No.
you know, and then they take a little break, then they do another 13. So a season would be like 26 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. And now we're down to like 6 episodes.
Yeah.
Sometimes 3.
Mm-hmm.
What do you tell me in that time? You get me all worked up.
Yeah.
To cut the episodes. I don't get that. Television producers, smarten up. Do better.
That's right.
Do better. I am tired of that.
Yep.
Absolutely tired of
Mhm.
you know, having to wait and wait. Like with Shoresy, I had to wait 4 months.
That's ridiculous, right? Yeah, there's a few shows that we watch the same things. Oh, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
dear.
Now I'm sorry to go off topic on
No,
this, but this is exactly what she's doing. Oh,
Yeah.
you gotta wait a week
yeah,
in order to do that. Why even bring it up?
yeah,
Because
exactly.
now what you're doing is if you're pulling, you know, a jellyfish UFO video, all you're doing is hyping up a bunch of people for a nothing burger.
Yeah, exactly.
This community in the UFO community has had enough.
Yeah.
And if the story is that big, why is it coming from a congressperson
Right?
and not somebody who's either the president or one of the president's right-hand people
Mm,
in order to do this?
yeah.
Is she going to come out and say aliens are real? Oh, gee. What phone is
Thanks.
that going to have? What proof are you going to bring out?
Yeah.
If you're going to make a statement like that, you better have all your barrels filled with information bullets
Yep.
in order to make that happen. Your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And it's frustrating, and I think that was a key word. I'm sick and tired of the ooh, we've got something, and they got nothing. Yeah, I don't know which way it's going. I really don't, obviously. And it's gonna drive me insane because it'll be popping up everywhere. Big things coming, and oh my goodness. And I don't know why she's you know, bringing it out and keeping it a big secret. It doesn't make sense. It just government, it's the way the government works or the way that they do it.
Oh, true enough.
Right.
True enough. And look, it doesn't matter what side of the ledger you're on,
Mm-hmm.
what your political belief is.
Yeah.
This new social media build up
Mm-hmm.
that's been going on the last decade, it sucks.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
It sucks. It's like we're grown up here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the only thing I want to get excited for is when am I going to Vegas next? May
Right.
1st to 5th. Okay. When am I going to have something happen? When do I
Yeah.
get to hang out with Sweet Robbie G, our weekend host? When do I
Yeah.
get to go out to our Sasquatch spot?
Yeah.
That's stuff I look forward to.
Yes.
But this, you know, lead up and build up that we are continually doing on social media,
Yeah.
it is, to me, it's toxic.
Yeah.
And it's not, lack of a better term, polite.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be that get off my lawn, that old curmudgeon. I'm
Mhm.
only 51. I got at least 16 years before I got to wear that title. And, you
Wear
know,
your hat crooked.
absolutely, you know, and my socks hiked up to my knees
Yeah.
with sandals on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I got like 16 years before I go for that horrid look.
Yeah. No doubt.
But stop it. Let's
Mhm.
grow up a little bit.
Agreed.
If it is that important that you have to say something, oh, I can't tell you now, but in a week from now, I could tell you.
Yeah.
It just makes me shake my head.
Yeah, me
And
too.
now, once again, we're preparing for a nothing burger
That's what I'm thinking.
or information that has more holes in it than Swiss cheese.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous. What do you got next for us?
Okay, well, ex-military officer abducted by alien had a conversation with a 7-foot mantis being. So whistleblower Lieutenant Colonel John Blitch spoke to News Nation's Ross Coulthart, in an exclusive interview where he claimed that he was abducted by aliens and described a 7-foot mantis being. So retired military officers claimed he'd had a conversation with a fuming 7-foot praying mantis looking being. Whistleblower Lieutenant Colonel John Blitch was speaking to News Nation's Ross Coulthart in an exclusive interview where he claimed he was abducted. He said he was told by his alien abductor that the body is just a machine that houses the soul and they can't steal his soul or consciousness. And also went on to say that the extraterrestrial was angry with him, but said it had no intention of causing him physical harm. He said that it was wrong to perceive any UFO in Earth's airspace as a threat, adding that there was no threat of collision. Then he went on to detail his own experience of being abducted by aliens, where he claimed they explicitly told him they meant no harm and were just trying to help him. It was a 7-foot-tall praying mantis, he said. It was upset with me and was chastising me. It came through the door, was standing over me. I was terrified, frozen, paralyzed on the bed, he said. He was just looking at me very intently and explained to me, look, this body that you've got is just a soul housing group. It's a brain housing group. It's just a machine that your soul occupies for this lifetime. And so, yeah, we're going to mess with it. We're going to get up under the hood and we're going to adjust the carburetor. We may swap a couple of parts out, but we can't steal you. We can't steal your soul. We can't steal your consciousness. So quit screaming and wreathing around and let us do our freaking job. And it's like the equivalent of a surgeon telling the patient to stop squiggling, just like the veterinarian to my Labrador retriever, he said. And so I got that very condescending and vigorous instruction. But here's the thing, as proof, there was this image that put in, and it was terrifying. His mandibles that were kind of behind a casing or shell opened up and started grabbing chunks of my cheek, and he's ripping it, and there's blood spattering on the wall. And I'm feeling the tug and I'm feeling the flesh. And the whole time he is conveying to me, see, we can't get your soul. We can do a lot of damage to your body if we want to. We don't. We're trying to help you. But this is how bad it could get. So stop squirming and let us get this done. Coulthart asked if the physical damage to his cheek was real, but Lieutenant Colonel Blitz said, no, I felt the tugging and I had the visual, all a false fuzzy memory.
I'm going to ask you your opinion on that first, then I'll give mine.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm thinking that somebody was retired and needed somebody to talk to and thought, hey, I'm going to jump into this fray. Not saying that this couldn't happen. I don't know. I think he was ad-libbing with the carburetor and stuff. So, yeah, I'm kind of skeptical.
I believe it.
Do you really?
I believe it.
Okay, cool.
I believe it. You know what? If I could tell you how many times I've heard an extremely similar story,
right,
from listeners, from guests, from reading online, from people who I know and trust,
sure,
like Preston Dennett, who has dealt things like this. I am so there, man.
Okay, cool.
I'm on his bandwagon.
Yeah,
man. That guy's got some aliens, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing, we've heard R. Keith Andrews on this show, and a
Yes.
lot of people who listen to R. Keith believe he is a complete wingnut.
No.
Okay, but this is a guy who has come in and said that he's actually, on his abductions, had his arm snapped backwards because the ETs that took him wanted to see the reaction.
Oh,
and then they put his arm back together, and he's never had any troubles whatsoever.
Mhm.
It's easy to say that is just a bad dream.
Sure.
Or that somebody's had too much of the hippie lettuce.
Yeah.
Or, too many tequilas at a
sure
function.
Yeah, I get it.
Right? But I believe him.
Okay.
We're going to continue this when we come back on Spaced Out Radio. Do you believe that somebody out there may have some aliens taking them? We'll figure it out when we come back.
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we're clear. No talking about this because I don't want to
No, I
give
got
up
it.
anything for the air.
Yep, I got it.
I'm pumped about this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I'm pumped.
Well, I know Nicole brought it up on last Thursday night, and I was like, yeah, keep her on because that's what I wanted to talk about when they stayed the extra hour. And I was like, she didn't talk about it.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The woo.
I love it.
I
dude.
know you do.
I love it.
I
love it.
had to change it up, and I was like, okay, we've been force fed enough of the stuff that's been going on the last little while. It's time to lighten it up and have some fun.
Yep.
You know, what are you doing?
I'm just excited that I can actually
Oh.
feel my scalp again.
Yep. Well, me too.
How long have you been a cue ball?
Since 1980, no, 90, 92, 93, something like that.
82 would have put you at about 40. So.
That's right.
Uh-huh. That is right, people.
Well, it was like Filth tonight. We were texting back and forth. He goes, I'm having super hot wings. And I was like, I love wings. I used to really like super hot wings. I says, but when you're knocking on the 60s door, I don't know what it is, man, but the spices get a little bit too.
I see the Vegas chatter in our chat room. We are staying at the Orleans. The Orleans. Ooh, Sandra Kincaid says, I love bald men.
Well,
Hey,
thank
baby.
you.
Hey, baby.
Well, they say grass doesn't grow on a busy street. Right, so.
Dude, I've seen what you do in your personal life. There ain't no traffic there. What's your excuse? You can't say they're paving.
Yeah, no, exactly, right?
All right.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh. You've got some energy. It's your day off. I'm overtired. I'm
Dude,
just
I'm
being
so-
stupid.
I slept in until 9:45.
Shut up. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. I slept until 9:45.
Beautiful.
And then I got to like stretch it out till like 10 a.m.
Oh, were you just kind of
Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is good.
No doubt.
This is good. Yeah. Oh, Sandra says it's easy to put the brain electrodes on.
Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm. She's a sleep specialist.
Oh, is she?
Yeah. She's helped me so much through my CPAP.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
through my sleep and learning about what I need to do differently.
I might have to DM her because I got some.
She's
stuff.
she's been a blessing.
Oh, right on.
Really has been a blessing.
Right on.
Yeah. You having sleep trouble?
Yeah.
Gout?
No. Goat? What? Is everything goat?
Yeah, man.
Put Windex on it. Got a toothache. What do you got? Goat?
Why not?
Oh.
I can barely talk because of my lip. I can't even smile.
10 games, I say.
Yeah. Oh my it's big too.
I saw it.
I got a goiter in my mouth right now. A sebaceous cyst.
Oh my God.
I showed my boy today after he got home from school.
Did one of those?
I'm like, hey bud, remember when you punched me in the chin last night in our fight? And he's like, yeah. Like, look what you did to Dad. And I showed him. He's like, I did that? I'm sorry, Daddy. I'm sorry. I'm like, don't be sorry, man. I'm pretty proud of that. That was a good shot.
No doubt.
Right? I mean, you can't get, you can't punish the kid for.
No.
He did what's right. He knew the bell was going to be answered.
Definitely.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
I won 2 out of 3. But that hurt.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Like when he hits me, he's cracked me a couple of times, and it feels good. It does. It feels good. You know, but that one, when the tooth goes into the lip,
yeah,
I don't like that feeling.
Mm-mm.
Don't like it at all. All right. Thank you to Jay, Deborah, Mayhem, and Joanne for our wonderful, lovely super chats. Greatly appreciate your love and support. And, we're going to get going here. Here we go. Aliens? We're going to figure this out here momentarily. But first, before we continue the UFO report with little Timmy James, we are going to tell you that if you missed most of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Big question is, have you seen any mantid beings in your bedroom recently? Well, according to Colonel Blitch.
Yes.
And Tim was just reading the story right before the last break, that a colonel went on Ross Coulthart with News Nation, did an interview claiming he's got some aliens, and some big aliens at that, a 7-foot mantid type being. So if you imagine, if you're wondering what a mantid being is, if you look at a praying mantis, take the head, maybe the front arms,
right,
and put like a human body on the rest of it. Yeah, scary as anything. And this mantid being is literally telling Colonel Blitch, dude, calm the hell down. We're just going to do a couple of experiments on your body. Yeah. We can't harm your soul. We can't harm your consciousness. That's not in the rule book. But hey, if we want to pull my finger or something along those lines,
that's right,
they're going to do it. Tim's not buying it, though. He thinks that drugs or alcohol were involved. That's how unwooful he is. Guy claims he saw a Sasquatch last year.
Well, yeah. Exactly.
Right? Yeah. But then there's me.
Yeah. Then
there's me.
Then comes Dave.
I believe his story.
Yeah.
I totally believe his story. And the one thing that I don't like about this narrative of ufology that we have right now, is a lot of these guys like Colonel Blitch and many others, they're going to be untouchable for shows like ours to interview. Now, let me explain to you why. If you have been following the UFO cycle for the last 5 years, especially the UAP crowd, especially in the last 2 years, there has been a real effort to see these groups form. Okay. Groups forming for information, groups forming for conferences, scientists grouping together to support whether it's SOL or SALT or NASA or many other groups that have popped up. UAP DF is another one now.
Right.
Okay. Arrow and all these others. All these people who think we're better than you. We don't want to be a part of ufology because, we killed ufology. We're all about you-apology now. Okay. And a lot of these names, especially the military people that are coming out, I'm going to use the term handler.
Okay. Yeah.
They have handlers. Now, has that come out in public where people have taken this idea and said, well, just because they're not interviewing on Spaced Out Radio or Coast to Coast or Jimmy Church or some of the other real shows, it doesn't mean that there's a conspiracy behind it. Yes, there is. If you talk to people behind the scenes, they will tell you that there are certain people that are going to get the story and the majority are not.
Right.
Okay. Why hasn't David Grush done his tour of UFO land?
Yeah.
Why hasn't, I once talked to Lou Elizondo about this.
Right.
This was a number of years ago. This was right after he left the To the Stars Academy.
Right.
And one of the things that he didn't realize, and he said it was one of the biggest faults that TTSA made, that's Tom DeLonge's group, To the Stars Academy,
Right.
was that they bit the hand that fed them.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I understand that's cliche with what I say, but they gave zero respect to the people of ufology. Now, I don't care if you like Elizondo or not. That's not the point of what I'm saying here. The point that I am getting at is that they didn't want anything to do with ufology. They felt, now I'm not saying Elizondo felt this way.
Right. Okay.
I don't want to put words in his mouth. That would be unfair. But they, being the leaders of that group, led by Mr. Blink 182, who I would totally see in concert.
Yeah.
Because I love their music.
Right.
They didn't want anything to do with ufology. Ufology was beneath them. Ufology was flying saucers and little green men.
Okay.
Okay, with people talking about anal probes. That was what people made fun of.
Yeah.
Ufology, well, this is serious stuff here. So they abandoned ufology. The problem that they forgot about, which many in the UFO community or the UAP community are forgetting about.
Right.
These are the people who buy the books, the documentaries, who pay for the conferences, and sometimes an exorbitant amount of money for the conferences.
Makes sense.
In order to see somebody like Elizondo or somebody like Greer or somebody along those lines to actually speak.
Right.
These are the people that are paying Dr. Stephen Greer $3,500 a weekend for CE5, which Jake Barber is now calling psionics. Okay. These are the people that are getting into this. But when you see this new wave of ufology coming out, where people who have never been in the field are getting million-person views within days of releasing.
Right.
Yet other shows out there who've been around forever, and I'm excluding us.
Right. Fair enough. Okay.
Can't get 1,000 views on the same topic, maybe a different type of production, but on the same topic, or can't get that interview. Look, we are oversaturated right now with UFO type podcasts, YouTube channels.
Lots.
It's way too much for the amount of people in our fringe category, which is why our numbers are bigger, because we diversify in topics. It's not just about UFOs, even though we do the UFO report.
Yeah, fair.
It's not just about Bigfoot, like tonight, spontaneous human combustion.
Exactly.
We're always looking for a different type of show. But for the UFO crowd out there, if you look at who is getting the interviews, do yourself a favor. Look at the size of their YouTube channel. If they are over 1 million subscribers,
right,
they are getting the interview. What the hell does Logan Paul have to do with ufology? What does George St. Pierre have to do with ufology? Magician Chris Ramsey, other than he loves the topic.
Sure.
Okay. But these hounds look at those great people who are influencers, who have done the hard work to figure out algorithms and what works and what doesn't. And they look at Chris Ramsey and they say, well, there's 7 million subscribers on his channel. He likes this topic because I've seen him on X tweeting about it.
Right.
Let's give him a call. Hey, buddy, you want to come to the congressional hearings with us?
Exactly.
Okay.
I get it.
So they are very I'll put it this way. Explain to me how somebody like, and this is no insult to any of these influencers, why they'll get an opportunity to talk to David Grush or Jake Barber or, well, Elizondo's done the circuit, so he's used to it.
Yeah.
But any of these other guys who are coming out, why would they get that interview if they've only been in ufology for a year. Where, never mind us, this has nothing to do with Spaced Out Radio.
No.
But shows that are much larger than ours, Coast to Coast doesn't get them.
No.
Jimmy Church doesn't get them.
Mhm.
Clyde Lewis doesn't get them.
Mhm.
And many others of that ilk and category are not getting them.
Right.
Never mind us. I'm excluding us from the conversation, because every time I put us in the conversation, I get whiny morons on social media coming on and saying, you're just jealous.
Yeah.
You're jealous that you're not getting them. Look, this has nothing to do with me.
No.
We have people who have been covering this subject for a long time. Credible journalists, credible professional radio hosts.
Yep.
Okay. We're not getting them. That's because we are not part of the plan. We are not part of the format. We are not part of the future.
Right.
Okay. And if you disagree with me, that's wonderful. But do the research and see the circle of trust that is being built in these cliques or these groups, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
And who's getting the interviews.
Yeah.
And who's controlling the interviews.
That's right.
And you know what? If you work the pyramid, there's one billionaire at top.
That's right. Absolutely.
He has defense companies. He has a very, very large bank account due to his sale of PayPal.
Yeah.
He funded Enigma Labs. Peter Thiel. Allegedly. Yes. Because we have to follow it up with allegedly.
Yes.
But I'm serious about this.
Yeah.
If you take a look, there is pattern there.
Yeah.
So I know we started this talking about, a mantid being Colonel Blitch.
Sure. Yeah.
Colonel Blitch is who should be talking to the UFO family.
Fair enough.
We are the people who are supporting this story. And when they're not, I caution our listeners or people who have interest in this subject, because we need to realize that they are being played.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I see it, listening to you speak, obviously, what I see too is a lot of these influencers and the Logan Pauls and that are out there. I mean, okay, so they've done whatever they've needed to do to get to where they're at. I'm not, whatever way they did it. But what I'm seeing too is, I'm wondering if they're taking the terminology as well that we're used to using and taking that wingnut stigma and trying to, maybe they are trying to support the same thing we're doing, but they're being managed. You know what I mean? And the new terminologies and stuff that are coming out, maybe they're trying to put a more, like you say, a serious spin on this. So that, it's like, oh, just another wingnut talking about UFOs, changing acronyms, changing names.
Absolutely.
I'm wondering.
Now you're, as somebody who's new to this field and been reporting on this for about 6 months now.
Yeah.
Now you're starting to see.
Yeah.
What like Sweet Robbie G, our after hours host on the weekend. He just posted Jeremy Corbell just named Lester Nair, Chris Sharp, and another person as the new young guns of ufology. Right?
Okay.
So, but if you look at the clicks.
Yeah.
Okay. And clicks being CLIQUES.
Right.
Not as in remote clicks.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Okay.
Yep.
Or social media clicks.
You
have Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp.
Yes.
They have a very strong bond.
Mm-hmm.
And these are, George Knapp, I totally respect. Jeremy Corbell, I like. Him and I've always gotten along. I may not agree with everything that he says, but that's okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a jerk about it.
No, of course not.
But you have their clique of people and researchers and people who support what they do. You have the scientific community with Gary Nolan
Mm-hmm.
and Avi Loeb and Jacques Vallée.
Yes.
You have another clique with this is the newer crowd of Jesse Michaels,
Mm-hmm.
which would include somewhat Ross Coulthard,
Yes.
okay, which includes Chris Ramsey,
Mm-hmm.
Logan Paul, George St. Pierre,
Yep.
and other YouTube influencers, social media influencers on getting the story out.
Yeah.
Here's one thing I have noticed over my time, 10 years of doing Spaced Out.
Yeah.
When somebody new comes in,
Okay.
okay, and we've had people who've been, previous guests on their show, they've maybe been in the field 4 to 6 months, because I'm not somebody who believes you have to have tenure to be on the show.
Yeah. Got it.
Okay. I like a new voice, a new attitude, but I remember the many times that we brought on new podcasters or new researchers into this field.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing they do is name drop.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Because everybody goes for the popular people first.
Yes.
Popular people being like Richard Dolan or Grant Cameron or Linda Moulton Howe, Melinda Leslie,
Yeah.
Science Bob, whoever you want to call them.
Sure.
They all go for those people. And then then what they do is they name drop
Mm-hmm.
through it. Well, if you look at what's happening now in U-apology,
Yeah.
that is stronger than ever, because they're just name dropping all the new people, whether
Right.
it's Grush, whether it's Elizondo, whether it's Mellon, whether it's Anderson, whether it's Sands or any other whistleblower.
Mm-hmm.
People, there are more people that are having experiences, like the CE5. And I know I'm all over the board right now, and I hope I'm making sense. But you take the CE5 aspect,
Right.
or what is now been another name change called psionics, which, some people like it, some people don't. I don't mind it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing that we've been talking about for 60, 70 years from experiencers. But because it happens to a military guy, now all of a sudden it's believable.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden it's truthful.
Mm-hmm.
And that isn't a shot at Jake Barber.
No.
I would love to talk to Jake Barber, and I'm going to try. We are efforting.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe he'll come on. Maybe he won't. But I want to be able to show that there is a narrative at play here.
Yeah, absolutely.
The changing of the names, like you just said, the changing of the acronyms,
Mm-hmm.
the who can talk to who and who can't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whoever's handling their media is not doing their homework. There's good podcasts, bad podcasts, good
Sure.
YouTube channels, bad YouTube channels.
Yeah.
Okay. I was talking to somebody tonight on an X Space behind the scenes after the X Space was done. I said, boy, I'm surprised you put that person on the air.
Right.
Because they're nothing but trouble for what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he's like, yeah, I know. I probably shouldn't have.
Right.
Whatever it may be. So the point that I'm getting at is, as people are studying this topic more, it isn't just about the big names.
Right.
The one thing that we have forgotten through this entire venue in U-apology is that there are real people who have had real experiences, whether it's being taken by mantid beings, grays, reptilians, Arcturians, Andromedans, Pleiadians, the sock people, the crab people, the ant people, okay, the Anunnaki, or whoever it may be. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We have people who have summoned UFOs.
Yeah.
We have had people who've called them down, people who've had extraordinary experiences, people who have been camping and having their campground surrounded by Sasquatch, but the UFOs fly over and the Sasquatch run away screaming.
Yep.
Believe it or not, we've had it all. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is more than just a military topic where they're going to control who gets the interviews and who doesn't. The journalists don't care, because like somebody like Ross Coulthard, who I respect.
Sure.
Okay. He doesn't care that we're not getting the interview, or Jimmy Church or Vinny Adams or Jason Guillemette or anybody with another 1,000 podcasts.
Right.
Brian Bowden with 9,872. Okay. He doesn't care about that, because that's just the journalistic way.
Sure.
And I can respect him for that.
Yeah.
Okay. If I had somebody in my bag that I could go to like that and get an interview with like that, and they would only exclusively talk to me.
Yeah.
or people in the clique I'm in, I would totally take that deal.
Yeah.
Totally take that deal, because that's journalism. Our job is to tell the stories. We, as journalists, as part of the ego, want to be able to tell that story. We don't want somebody who, lack of a better term, is selling their soul to every podcast,
Right.
Yeah. To get their message out. We don't like people like that. I hate it on this show when I get somebody coming up to me and say, hey, I'd like to be a guest on Spaced Out Radio. In the past month, I've done 58 podcasts.
Okay.
And it has happened. We don't want that, because all you're doing is selling yourself out.
Yeah.
And your story isn't relevant.
Mhm.
I want somebody who's brand new. Like when we looked at a few weeks ago, when we had one of our longtime listeners, Joe Monk, on the show.
Yeah. That was awesome.
And here he was telling his story. There's an educated guy. He was a geologist. He didn't believe in any of this stuff.
Mhm.
And then it started.
Yep.
That's a story I want.
Yeah.
Not somebody who's going to go on 58 podcasts in the last 32 days
Yeah.
and then come on my show to tell his story, right? It's
Yeah.
not worth it to me.
Well, my grandfather used to say that when watching the news, and he loved the news, and good. I did too when I used to love watching the news. And he goes, grandfather used to go, now that's a meat and potato story, right? And I never understood that. And it's like, yeah, okay, I get it. It's something that's relevant and something that's not regurgitated 75,000 times on 25 million different channels. And yeah, I agree. I get where you're going with that.
And that's just the way it is.
Mhm.
I know I ate up all your time.
That's
here, Tim. I
okay. We're having
apologize,
fun.
But
That's what it's
it
about.
was good conversation.
Yes, very much so.
And I hope people learn. This is why I tell our listeners all the time.
Yeah.
When things get a little bit too hectic, do yourself a favor. Don't dive into the pool.
Yeah.
Because this is a topic you need to start in the shallow end before you go into the deep end.
100%.
And that's what I recommend. Thank you, Jim. Would you like to jam any more strong bubble football? Rocking in the background. Little brothers. Bubble is the official Spaced Out Radio. Rocking us in and out every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in Apple and wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LPM, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, Space Travelers Club, and on X, hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio. And so are Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us. Because together, my
don't
friend,
make a mistake. We're watching.
he owns the night. Mr.
You may find you to fall. You can expose you. I know you're out there somewhere. Watching me.
Yes, the moon train has gotten to the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. You see, service available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. I'm making sure I'm hitting.
I'm keeping my mouth shut.
Oh,
And I want to
dude.
go. I want to go. Save it. Don't.
Oh, dude. Anyways, I want to just say this to the audience before. Yeah, Rob's like, don't delete the show tonight, baby.
Right.
That's right. I want to say this to our audience before they start dispersing. What I just said, don't believe me.
Mm.
Okay. Take what I said as a little piece of research. And if you're really into the UFO subject, go look at it yourself.
Yeah.
Don't take my word for it, because this is where we're going in ufology. Go look at it yourself.
Mhm.
You will see that I am pretty right. And that's not an insult against any of these groups or these people involved. But there is a narrative being played. And because everybody knows I'm more pro-experiencer than I am pro-science on this, you know, it's something that is a hard pill to swallow. Because here's the thing. One of the biggest problems we have in this field is aha, caught you moments.
Yeah.
And there's going to be people who listen to that first part that I just said right before we ended the show who are going to be like, aha, caught you. You're insulting George Knapp, or you're insulting
Exactly.
Jesse Michaels or Chris Ramsey. No, I'm not.
Mm-mm.
Okay. I've met or verbally chatted with almost all of them. I haven't with Jesse Michaels, but everything I hear about him, he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
He's a nice guy. And I'm not going to tell anybody to go not watch his channel or anything.
Hell no.
But what I am saying is go look at how these cliques are forming, because what they're doing is they're cutting off the head of the information channel. The problem that they have is they can't, because so many people are starting out to do YouTube channels and podcasts on this subject. And they know they're drowning in too many podcasts for such a niche market.
Yeah.
So what they are doing then is they are holding their people and holding their cards tightly so the rest of us don't get an opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is why. This is one of the reasons why, and Tim, you know, at SOR here, we're putting on a big push for radio stations.
Yes.
So we can help get this message out for more people who may have interest in this subject. Right?
You betcha.
That's why, we're a business. Yeah, we want to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we want to expand. Everything. That's all great on a business side.
Yeah.
But on an information side, we want to make sure that we can do that homework.
Yeah.
So that way, instead of Rob and I, having to bust our ass for, a daytime job, we have that ability to sit there and work the phones.
Yep.
And to work those informants and work the sources and work everything.
Yeah. Agreed.
Right. And that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I would suggest to our audience. Don't believe me.
Mm-hmm.
Take what I said with a grain of salt.
Yep.
Do your own homework. And if you agree with me, you'll see it's very obvious. If you don't agree with me, tell me why you don't agree.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
For sure.
So that's me standing on my soapbox there for a second.
You did look a little taller, actually, but
yeah. All right. I see how this thing gets a little finicky now.
Oh,
it's the mouse.
It's the mouse.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
I'm just surprised though that they don't have a safety guard against it. Everything else has a safety guard.
Even Photoshop, most software does. That's strange, but
yeah. Hey Rob, are you at your office tonight?
Do 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 do. Oh,
did I spell that right? No, I did not. Well, I did, but I hate it when I put like a capital letter in the middle of a word. That drives me just batty.
I hate it when I miss commas. Punctuation. That's like I can't be that guy on a text that does a BRB. Like I've done it here in the chat room and stuff. Yeah. But if I'm texting somebody or whatever, or you and I are going back and forth, I actually type out, I'll talk to you later, not TT, whatever it is. No. The home office. Rob is at the home office this evening.
If you want to pop on and chat with us while we're editing, Rob, you can. Just so you know, if you're allowed. Ooh, Robbie at the home office.
Ding, ding, ding. Yeah. I think I heard him all the way down the coast. Bite me, Dave. Something like that.
No, he's laughing.
I know. Rob's just getting out of bed, isn't he? He'll be up all night now.
What was that guy's book called again?
Ablaze. Deb, I give Rob G permission. Excellent. Rob says, okay. Does that mean, okay, you're coming on, or okay, you got to go ask?
No, he'll be on.
I know. I'm just. Oh, man.
I will say this about spontaneous human combustion.
Right.
I'm going to be really proud to never type it out again for a long time. Just saying. Right?
Yeah. Definitely. Oh, man.
All right, we are publishing. Oh, I made it. I made it
Excellent.
again. That's 2 in a row.
You know Reiki this time.
I win. I win. I can't wait to show you that Taco Bell on Las Vegas.
I know. Yeah. I'm down.
Oh, man. We're going to hardcore eat there.
You think?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just throw on the Diablo sauce.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not even hot.
No, it's not.
No. We might have to do a couple of warm-ups to cab loops first.
Yeah, okay.
Uh-huh.
Remember that when you were over the house and I showed you that chili paste that I got? I put it in my chicken and rice soup tonight. Bam! Mm-mm.
You know what I had for dinner?
No.
I had chunky stew.
Oh.
Yeah, chunky. It was stew chili mixed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Added some hot sauce to that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Take your Tums with you.
Yeah. No.
That's Sandra Kincaid. You know what? She reminds me of, those great teachers you had back in elementary school who would be very stern but loving at the same time.
Mrs. Scanlon.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is totally Sandra Kincaid.
Yeah.
When she speaks, I'm like, yes, Sandra. Yes, Sandra. I will do that. I'm sorry I brought shame to you. Right? Love her.
Yeah, grade 5 teacher, Mrs. Scanlon, man. Exactly like that. And I believe she was French Canadian.
Oh, the French Canadians, yes.
But she look at you and you'd be like, oh, you just shrink right into yourself. But boy, oh boy, she sure loved everybody and all the kids in her class, man. It was like, yeah, it was awesome. One of my favorite teachers.
Oh, yes. Anyway, we got it now.
Mel's Diner. That's in Vegas. I thought that was in LA.
Who's Mel's Diner?
Mel's Diner. It's Hollywood. It's a diner, Mel's Diner in Hollywood, and it's everything. It's like looks like an old
diner.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
But I didn't know they had one in Vegas. So that's all right. Kiss my grits.
Yeah. The thing about the Mirage being torn down, they had the best milkshakes there in the little diner they had there. You go through the front doors right off of Las Vegas Boulevard.
Right.
And you'd walk by the diner on the left-hand side right there. Yeah. It was like a $7 milkshake.
Yeah.
But that was a good $7, man.
I like
it came in the
milkshakes.
full glass, and then they still had the metal cup that had about half left in it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I love those.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing I do want to just, tell people in all seriousness here about our Vegas extravaganza. All right. I'm not eating breakfast for dinner. Okay. Not doing it. That's a horrible, horrible thought that you would impose on me.
Yeah.
This is one of those situations okay, where I'm right, you guys are wrong. They are breakfast foods for a reason, because it's breakfast time. They're not anytime meals.
Yeah.
All right. I'm tired of having to explain this.
Well, we'll see after you have a couple of shots of Fireball, and then I say, "Hey, man, I'm bringing up some French toast and strawberries with whipped cream. You want some of them?" You'd be like, "No, oh no, I don't want that."
No, because I'm catching a cab to the 24-hour Taco Bell, or I'm calling Uber Eats.
That's it. What the hell is that? I've never used it because we live so far north.
Dude, it's a beautiful thing.
Is it? I know the kid uses it.
Uber Eats is an amazing invention. It really is. Sweet Robbie G, what's happening to you, sexy bastard?
Wow.
Yeah, I just heard you talking about breakfast for dinner, and I was just waiting for it because it's a Daveocracy to come after that.
Are you giving me a shot right now, you big?
That's the only logical reason I could see that you would say something like that, Dave, and everyone else around you.
I think you're on drugs.
I can't hear him.
Hold on. I'm going to turn the speaker up a little bit here.
There we go.
Oh, you can't hear me? Okay.
You're really quiet. Maybe that's good because you're talking such nonsense and trash right now.
Okay, how about now? Am I good?
That works.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I had to come on and say something like that. But yeah, to what you were saying earlier, and it was something that definitely bothered me. Jeremy Corbell, who, I really respect some of the things that he's brought out, and it just is strange to me that it almost seems like it pushes a narrative and an agenda when you come out and present it. And I got respect for Lesson there. Let me start there. I got respect for the guy, Chris Sharp, as well. But he took it up on his own to label these guys like the new young guns in ufology. So to me, what that does is it's a signal for the media outlets, the national outlets, to say, hey, these are the other guys you should be paying attention to. And then if you look, you'll see that they have made recent appearances on national outlets. So shout out to them, though, because I think they do have their fingers on the pulse. But it just like, how could you, as a Jeremy Corbell, come out and figure that you're the one that gets to anoint who are the next young guns of ufology? It just took me back for a minute, man, and I felt a way about it.
Well, I can tell you this. Grant Cameron named the original young guns, who were all pro TTSA right off the bat. They included Danny Silva, Joe Mergia, what's John's last name? A few others.
Joe Mergia may have been that third person. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Big fan of Joe Mergia's. Terrible hair. I feel sorry for him if he ever ran into Velcro, because he'll never get it out. And by the way, that is something I have told Joe before. Okay.
Oh, so it's not an aha gotcha moment?
No.
Okay, good.
No. He tried to make it into one of those woke moments.
Oh.
And I said, Joe, you can't. It's Velcro. There's nothing racist about Velcro.
No.
Right? Well, you're slamming my Italian heritage. No, I'm not. Not at all. I'm just saying you got bad freaking hair. And I'd be really scared of what happened if you and Nick Pope ever could join together. We'd never pull you apart.
Exactly.
Reminds me of, you remember those little crazy glue commercials where they put the crazy glue on the hard hat and the guy dangling off the steel truss.
Yep.
Holding onto his helmet.
Yep.
That would be the equivalent of Nick Pope and Joe Mergia accidentally locking hair together, man. What do you think, Rob?
I'm thinking more of on a static electricity sort of level. I'm thinking of whatever that sort of reaction might be, as Nick Pope looks like he stuck his finger in the socket sometimes. Shout out to Nick Pope, though, too, because a lot of people say things about Nick Pope, and I don't really have anything bad to say about him. And just take this as a joke, Nick, if you happen to see this. Just a joke.
Oh, yeah. Look at Rob just covering his ass right there.
Smart man.
I will say this, though. For as crusty and as spiky as Joe Mergia can be, he is a great guy.
Yeah.
He's all serious when it comes to this, because he is all in. He is locked and dialed in.
Right on.
And he is such an incredible piece of information for ufology. I think everybody on X should follow Joe Mercia. I really do. You know, and him and I butted heads hard on certain things. Thankfully, I never got stuck with him when we were butting heads.
Yeah, no doubt.
But
Oh,
you know what? I will tell you this, Joe. When I met Joe a couple years ago at our fan party in Vegas, I invited him down, and he didn't know how it was going to turn out because,
sure.
you know, I mean, the image you get on the phone or on the show, if they're listening, you know, you tend to not like somebody you disagree with when you've never met them.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe comes in and I see him and he's like, I'm like, man, it's so good to meet you. And he's like, yeah, it's good to finally meet you. I'm like, did you get any swag from us? He's like, what? I said, well, I invited you here.
Yeah.
Do you want to, I expect you. Here's a t-shirt, a poster, a lanyard, and some, you know, we had magnets there. We had a bunch of stuff there. He's like, are you serious? I get all this? I'm like, yeah, man. Like, you know, of course you do. You know, you're one of the great people in this field. Like, just because people tend to forget that we're entertainment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, but Robbie, I'm glad. Thank you for pointing that out earlier, though, about the that piece on Corbell there. I really do appreciate it.
For sure, man. It's been rubbing me the wrong way since I heard it, and I'm just glad that we had a moment to kind of bring it up and talk about it, because I think it points exactly to what you were saying, that you know, and it's a shame that you have within ufology the talking heads anointing and appointing the next talking heads of ufology, which is just mind-blowing to me. And I even thought about, okay, well, how do you circumvent that? How do you get around that? And it seems like what's happening is you have the guys who are currently talking heads, bringing them on with them on these major outlets to give them that open door. And I'm like, why don't we just kick the door open ourselves? Because, you know, I think that they would find out, they would have an awesome conversation with some of the others that are in this field that know about the subject as well. It can speak and probably give opinions that some of these current talking heads are not giving, because generally, you know, with the Corbell, it's a talking point to promote something that he's involved with, right? Personally. And you find out that's what a lot of them are doing. They're usually talking and referencing things that they are engaged in or involved in. And so I think there's a narrative being pushed there. And we should maybe kick the doors in and reach out to these national media outlets ourselves and try to get Dave Scott on a News Nation clip where he gets to talk about his opinion on ufology. And I think that sort of thing catches on, because once they see you're good, then they ask you back, right? And then now we've broken that chain. We've broken that chain down.
It's a little bit more complicated than that. The people that they have going on the air now are, you know, they have the resumes rather than ex-journalist / experiencer / talk show host. You know, and plus what they're looking for as well is if they are bringing on a Chris Sharp, let's take Chris Sharp. I consider, for full disclosure, I consider Chris Sharp a good friend.
Mm-hmm.
We talk maybe once every 2 months.
Yeah.
Okay. And I like the guy. I think he's working hard on breaking a lot of this news.
Sure.
But there's a guy who's getting a lot of ample opportunities because of the people that he's built trust and befriended with. The issue that we have, Rob, is right now is the groundwork for a lot of these groups was started 4, 5, 6 years ago. Okay.
All right.
Now, I'm not going to go into detail why right now, because I saw it. This is a trust me, bro moment. I saw it from the inside.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Didn't fall for it because I think of my age and the fact that I had journalism experience with it. But I know many people who did. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Fessler, you know, who is a friend of this show. He's one. Lou Jimenez, another. And many others really fell hook, line, and sinker for a lot of these a lot of these narratives.
Right.
Okay. And then all of a sudden promises weren't kept.
Surprise.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, somebody like Lou Jimenez, who I as a person, I really like dearly. I mean, we don't agree at all with what's going on with this subject or experiencers or anything like that. But somebody like him, that guy got torched, man.
Yeah.
He got torched. Okay. I don't know the full story, but I know little bits and pieces. And I was like, whoa, like that's not cool stuff.
This is not good.
Right. And what they did was they put out a bunch of feelers. Who could they trust? Who they couldn't, or they felt they couldn't.
Wow.
Yeah. And when you go through all of that and you understand who the players are, who are the hound dogs sniffing around,
right?
They already, Rob, and I say this to you and all other podcasters out there, they already know who they can trust and who they can't. Just because you get Elizondo or Cahill or Chris Sharp or George Knapp or Jeremy Corbell or whoever on your show,
right,
for an interview, doesn't make you friends.
Well, yeah, no,
right. And once again, said with all due respect to the names I just dropped, not assuming that they are doing that. I just dropped names because they're popular names.
Yeah.
So no aha caught you moments there.
Here was one that really and you brought up Lou Jimenez, and definitely I have the same feelings for Lou as you do. Definitely don't agree on most things that is said, but he tends to behind the scenes be a cool person. So just no slight there. But one thing, this is the thing that made me even say this. It was the fact that they had recently, I want to say it was on News Nation, or it was either on News Nation or one of the recent documentaries. I can't remember which, but they had Christina Gomez.
Yeah.
As a speaker, which is fine because I think that what she brings, because if you look around this community, the the demographic is generally 35 and up. So you need a younger person in this field to kind of bring those younger eyes and ears into the subject. So she's doing an awesome job doing that. But the question for me ends up being, how do you overstep a Dave Scott to get to a Christina Gomez, or how do you overstep a Jimmy Church, right? In that matter, which they're great friends, to get to a Christina Gomez. And it's just trying to figure that thing out, right? And trying to figure out a way to kind of break through that, because obviously the national outlets are the ones that get to talk to the rest of the world. You know what I mean? So I'm just still trying to figure that dynamic out and how we can find a way to break through.
The one of the things that I like about Christina Gomez is that she is a journalist. She graduated with, I believe, her bachelor's in journalism. Okay, she's worked hard to build over the last couple of years to build, a credible reputation by doing a podcast once a month, or pardon me, once a week, I believe. And plus, she knows how to work shorts. Okay, she's a smart young lady, and I think that journalistically speaking, I think we've seen her pull away a little bit from this subject, but in the same time get more opportunity.
Right.
And at least that's what I've noticed. I've had her on with a guest. I've talked to her a couple of times, and I have absolute respect for that young lady. And I think she's going to be a great journalist. I really do. And I like the fact that I can call her a journalist as a real journalist and not a self-titled one. Right. So there aren't many people in this field I don't like. I will say that I have mad respect for the old schoolers, and a lot of the younger people that have come in. I got major respect for them too.
Yeah.
But in the end, like what it comes down to is, Rob, like you pointed out with there is a George Knapp, Jeremy Corbell clique.
Yeah.
They only allow certain people to come play in their sandbox, but that's why they're able to do what they do.
Sure.
Okay. Jesse Michaels and Ross Coulthart, they're different animals. Okay. Now, once again, not saying that in a bad way.
No.
But they have their sources and their way of handling things. And if you look at Jesse Michael's resume, one of the things that Peter Thiel loved about him was his power of understanding social media influencers.
Mm,
So what does he do? It's not surprising that all of a sudden, he's taking Chris Ramsey, who's been in ufology for less than a year,
right.
to sit front row on the congressional hearings.
Right.
7 million YouTube followers will get that.
Yeah.
Or Logan Paul has expressed that he's even going to be, wanting to throw money in
Oh, yeah.
to the whistleblower fund.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Logan Paul has 30 million
He's
subscribers.
All right. Yeah.
And if you're making, he's probably making $20 million a year
Oh, yeah.
just off YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind his WWE contract, his Prime business, and whatever else he's into.
He's making money.
His podcast that he does,
Yeah.
he's making huge coin right now.
Yeah, for sure.
He's probably worth 150 million?
Yeah, could
Maybe
be
more?
actually.
100 million?
No, more. He has that Prime drink, so they're up there. They get evaluated close to like $1 billion or something. It made last year, something crazy. They made a lot of money.
It's it's all adding up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and in my opinion, how do you not love George Knapp? This guy's been around UFOs since Roswell crashed.
Right.
Okay.
Logan Paul for 2025, 150 mil.
That's his value. Yeah. Personal value.
Net worth. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love George Knapp.
Mm-hmm.
When I see people ripping into George Knapp, I get that hockey fighter mode that I just want to,
Yeah.
I think there are certain people that are untouchables.
Yeah.
Okay. And to me, George Knapp is one of them.
Yeah.
I don't think he's played the UFO community for the fool. I know there's a lot of people out there who tend to side with that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe he has for a second. I think the reason why he's still going is he wants that story bad.
Oh, yeah.
He wants to break that story. He wants one more run at it.
Sure.
It's kind of like that grizzled veteran and, with Super Bowl weekend coming up this weekend, you get that guy who's played in the NFL. Somehow he's been able to stick around for 14, 16 years.
Yeah.
But this is his first shot for a ring.
Yeah.
And he wants it more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
I see that with George Knapp in the UFO story.
Yeah. Makes sense.
What's your thoughts, Robbie?
Yeah, George Knapp is. I mean, we go back to Bob Lazar with George Knapp. The only thing that people say about George Knapp in the end is that, and I think where some of those opinions started shifting is when he showed his openness to his involvement with Skinwalker Ranch. And you know how a lot of people feel about Skinwalker Ranch out there. Some people think it's a bunch of BS. He wrote the book with Lukatsky. They were talking about, upright walking canines, smoking cigarettes, things of that nature. I think that, but the thing is that if you put that aside, which we still haven't vetted yet, that could be true, accounts that they mentioned there. If you take that away, he's really just done nothing but positive things for the community. So definitely shout out to George Knapp for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. Big shout out to George Knapp. And George, if you're listening, because I know you're always up late and sometimes you do listen in. All right. Big thank you. Much love to you. And you still got the best beard in the business. That is you know what? I would equate George Knapp's beard as the beard of knowledge when it comes to UFOs.
The beard of knowledge.
Not UAP. He's a UFO guy.
Yeah.
George is a UFO guy, not a UAP guy. Right?
Yes.
The beard of knowledge. Oh. If there was one beard I could hang in this studio, I want George Knapp's beard. I do.
Okay.
He'll never shave it, though, because he's had it for 40 years.
Since he was like 12.
I bet you George Knapp, with all due respect, he was growing that sucker back at like grade 7.
Right.
Uh-huh.
I would like to say, if George Knapp is listening, to because you are looked at and held in this high regard, I would say it would behoove you and others in that position to help unsilence the voices that have been silenced in the community for 2025. Bring some experiencers in the fold. You have a show. You have the weaponized. Bring some average experiencers in. like you do on Coast to Coast, right? I mean, what's the big difference there? I would like to see more opportunities granted for those who I'm not going to say deserve, but just to more people from the community, because these stories matter. There are a lot of compelling cases that aren't necessarily fully woo, right? They're ones that you could still present on a national stage and still walk away with your respect and integrity. So I would just say something like that, because I think it's very important. Those guys are in the positions to do it. And, just think about it. Just think about it.
I would agree. But watch out for the clicks.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're out there.
Oh, unfortunately, they're totally out there. And
but I will say, Ross Coulthard has, though, lately, and this is one thing I gave him applause for, was that when he started his reality check show, he started bringing in some sort of experiencers that maybe on the face of it, some people may have said, "Oh, I don't believe that." And it mixed in with the Jake Barber stories and things like that. He's been attempting lately to bring on experiencers with what people would consider wild stories. So shout out to Ross for doing that. And it's your duty. Like, when you're up there like that, it's kind of your duty to open doors, for voices to be heard. So
yeah, I agree. Rob, stick around for a minute, because we're going to wrap this thing up on the YouTube side. Tomorrow night on the show, Mike Forrest is here. We're going to talk about alien carvings and lost history. I don't know what this is about. We're going to learn tomorrow, and why not come learn with me? Thank you tonight to Deborah Rooney with a hat trick, Jay Mayhem, and Joanne for the super chats. We greatly appreciate the love. And for all of you, we'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.